Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Big Tech Frenzy. In today's video, we have to talk about Ethereum. We have to talk about SoFi, maybe some AI, some big tech names. But overall, I think we're going to have a little bit of a mix of new topics that we're not usually used to, like Ethereum, for example. As I had a conversation with Brad Freeman earlier, and obviously there are some investors that are still skeptical and that they don't necessarily need to play in the Ethereum space, but maybe it's a great opportunity for some investors that are, able to take that risk on. And I think that could be potentially a great place to park, very risky, speculative parts of your actual portfolios. Now, the reason why I bring this up is specifically about Amit is investing. A friend of the channel. He, we have a show together. We talk often, but he ended up talking to Tom Lee this morning, and he had said something that was quite bullish. Let's listen to this really quickly, and then I'm going to give my opinion. Obviously, Tom Lee can be pretty bullish from time to time, but he's usually very right. And I mean, that's why everyone listens to Tom Lee, right? His success, his what do you call it? Like a accuracy rating, his hit rate is unbelievably high. So let's listen in. It's only a minute long clip, and we can talk about potentially why, Ethereum might be a place to park a little bit of cash, for example. Let's listen in.
Price targets for end of year for Ethereum and the S&P 500, and your logic for those two.
Yeah, I think Ethereum, in the near term, 5,500 should be happening in the next couple of weeks. But by the end of the year, I think it should be closer to 10 to 12,000 for ETH.
Can we just stop that for a second? So he thinks potentially 5,500 within the next week or so, and then potentially 10 to 12,000 by the end of the year. We are at 4,600 right now. Let me check the exact number. It changes very frequently. Yeah, 4,600, nearly on the dot. But obviously, we've seen a lot of movement. In fact, there's been a lot of reports recently that there's new inflows that are coming from Bitcoin and actually going into Ethereum as well. But these types of predictions from somebody who has been, relatively obviously biased. He's the chairman of BitMine or BMNR. But also is staking his reputation as an analyst and his ability to actually predict pricing on these markets. It's not very easy to take a position like this that is that bullish while also, risking your reputation. So let's go ahead and listen back and finish that conversation. In fact, I'll just rewind it just so everyone can hear it once again.
500 and your logic for those two.
Yeah, I think Ethereum, in the near term, 5,500 should be happening in the next couple of weeks. But by the end of the year, I think it should be closer to 10 to 12,000 for ETH. But it's because, most of the move in crypto does come in the fourth quarter. So if you're up 35% year to date, well, if you're going to be up 200%, it's going to all happen in the next few months. And for the S&P, if the Fed follows through and begins to cut, which is our expectation, and then we get a drop in mortgage rates and the ISM turning up, and therefore financials really begin to participate, I think that's why we get to 6,800 or so on the S&P. So still a lot of upside. Of course, as you know, September is the month everyone's going to be worried about. So that's a month where you might get a pullback, but you need to be buying debt too.
So the seasonal weakness in September, you would say, would just be another opportunity.
Yes, that's right. And as you know, every pullback, everyone has been ringing the bell saying it's the top. That has always been a dip buying opportunity since 2022. So I just say keep that in mind, that you really should be buying a dip.
I mean, that's just incredible, right? Obviously, his prediction for the markets in general going up to 6,800 is still very bullish. And if you are in equities, you still got to respect that opinion. Obviously, it is confirmation bias. It's just one man's opinion. However, it's of the opinion of somebody who has been very right over the last, 18 to 24 months, which is very, very, very great to sort of hear, if you believe in that sort of thing. But even whenever you look at the markets, S&P 500 right now, 6460, to get up to 6,800, very exciting. Ethereum going from 4,600 to 12,000, that's just something else. That's something spectacular. So how am I playing this? Well, I obviously am buying Ethereum. And you know that in the community portfolio, we've also taken a bet on SBET, but I've also taken a bet on SBET in my own portfolio. Now, during that portfolio with Tom Lee and Amit, he talks about how MNAV also allows you, or market net asset value, how much Ethereum is at that current time versus what you're pricing in. It's dependent on how much the actual asset value is worth versus how much the stock is worth, and then that gives you a multiple, right? So the interesting thing about Tom Lee is they break it down, Bitmine does, from the amount of Ethereum per share. And that's been climbing. I think right now it's around $40 per share of BMNR is made up of pure Ethereum. Okay. And then they can end up staking that and make some good rewards on that. But essentially, as time goes on, if you have a premium on your MNAV, then you can actually use your equity to buy more Ethereum. And if the stock doesn't appreciate fast enough, then hopefully he can end up acquiring more Ethereum than what you've had before, and the multiple shrinks. And then, you're getting more of what you actually have owned. Like if you were a shareholder of, BMNR over the last few months, Ethereum has maybe appreciated a little bit, but the amount of Ethereum that BMNR owns has appreciated a lot. And I mean multiples faster than what you've seen. I think it's about 12x faster than what Ethereum has done. So right now I only have SBET, but I think the proper way is for me, for my portfolio, I'm not talking about anyone else here, but is for me to make a bet on both SBET, but also BMNR, because the multiple on MNAV actually benefits them to purchase more Ethereum. So the idea being that, yes, there's a premium to this stock, but there probably won't be a time that there is not a premium, similar to buying a Palantir, a Shopify, a CrowdStrike, a Robinhood, right? Very hard to find those companies at discounts. So yeah, the pullbacks are so minimal. I mean, in BMNR they are. In SBET, they seem to pull back quite hard. We went from $37 to $19. But yes, BMNR, I think, has gone up to, in the recent periods, I think up to like 62 or something, and then back down to 50. It's really not much. The herd is running to BMNR. Yes, but that also makes BMNR a much more strong, that's the interesting part, is that the stock is so tied to the actual company. So if the herd is running there, that allows them to have more flexibility in how they acquire Ethereum, right? So maybe the winner, similarly to other companies where I say, hey, buy number one, don't buy number two. I didn't see a big difference, but Tom Lee likes to talk about how much difference there actually is. And another one that he talks about is the flexibility of, essentially the volume that ends up getting done on BMNR. Let's see if I can pull this up really quick. Oh, maybe I can't. No, it's actually not too high in the volumes today, but usually they place very high, about top 10 in the overall markets. So if BMNR is getting a lot of volume, that means that institutions can get in and out at the times that they want. Today, in particular, there's been just a ton of volumes on certain names like OpenDoor and NVIDIA that, BMNR does not place in the top rungs, but that's, a unique day per se. Now, speaking of companies that are placing really high in the amount of volume, let's talk about SoFi really quickly. SoFi, you'll notice, let's bring up this 5-day chart. Might be a little small on my screen, But if we look in the volume section here, you'll see a spike. Does anyone see a spike of green in this volume? Right around here, for example, where we see more purchasing in that single end of day than anywhere else in these last 5 days. Now, if we go ahead and zoom in just a little bit, we can see that was right here. In fact, this is what the mornings usually look like. A lot of purchasing at the beginnings and ends of days. But whenever we zoom out far enough to look at the end period of the day, it was so freaking high. About 38 million shares traded in that one single period that the rest of the chart does not even look visible. And we can zoom out pretty far. I think there's actually more volume in other areas, and I can't see it on a day-to-day basis. But in this singular period, it was right then. Now that also correlates very well with MSCI announcing that they are expected to purchase, we were expecting them to purchase SoFi shares on August 26th. So did they buy right in the last minutes of the day? Potentially. Now, like I said, it's not just going to be this single day where we end up seeing a large bump, right? It's going to be over the weeks, because now that they're added to those equity, now that they're added to, what is it, ANWI? I forget the exact, or ACWI. That's what I think it is, ACWI. That there's about 20 or so billion dollars tracking this fund, and that you will be able to not only purchase SoFi through this ETF, but also through the many of, billions of dollars that are tracking that fund and benchmarking to that fund, that will also have to buy SoFi over the coming weeks as they rebalance. And so hopefully we should see some more institutional buying over the next little bit. The more indexes we get added to, especially the popular ones, the better SoFi will be, because the downside risks are very minimal. There's not many, ETFs that people are buying where they're getting a basket of companies to short, right? You're only really seeing ETFs that are going long on many names, and that's where you're seeing the hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions of dollars that end up getting benchmarked to that. Now, the big ones are the Standard & Poor's, basket of companies. You also have the NASDAQ 100, but it is the NASDAQ 100. Very hard to get entry into it, but whenever you do, obviously there's a lot of money tracking that as well. But Standard & Poor's, S&P 500, 400, 600, there's a lot of volume there's a lot of ETFs that end up tracking those funds. SoFi has never been a part of any Standard & Poor's fund, okay? What's funny is we kind of gotten past so quickly. There are small cap funds, there are mid cap funds, and now we're only available, we're only the size that's could be purchased for the S&P 500, which is, the top dog. It takes in the high majority of the overall assets under management. But it could be a while, because in that space, we actually do rank pretty small versus those 500 companies. Although we are eligible at $30 billion, and there's a few hundred companies that are smaller than SoFi in that, index, it still is very hard to get new names into that space, especially young ones that have only just recently passed that eligibility. You do not see a lot of names that end up getting in immediately. Even the Teslas and Palantirs took, I think it was nine months for Palantir, 12 months for Tesla, something like that, after eligibility. So it'll be a little bit. Did you get my B-Day donation? I didn't see it popping up on screen. No, I didn't. And also, don't donate. It's not my birthday. It's not my birthday. Thank you so much, though. I appreciate it. Don't give him money for his birthday. He'll have to pay tax. Paul, I know what that's in reference to. What I'm saying is that everyone has their own streams from yesterday. So just go over to Roy's stream if you wanted to give Roy, a tip for his information or whatever, rather than giving it to Amit, and then Amit has to, pay for it for Roy, so then he can go out and get him dinner or something like this. I mean, it's it's less about just the paying tax rather than it is taking away the time from Amit's day so then he can send a Venmo over to Roy for $20. You know, it is a very nice gesture, but it's most likely not going to make it to Roy. That's the only thing that I'm trying to state. Like, a lot of people donate in different chats and say, hey, give this to those people. I never see it ever. You know? So if you're trying to give directly to Roy or something like that, just go to Roy's channel. That's the way that he's definitely going to get that donation. But yeah. 8th birthday this month. Ah, man, it's like my 26th birthday this month. Hey, Tanner, could you interview Tom Lee on SoFi? I don't think he cares too much about SoFi. But yeah, he definitely does care about Robinhood, and I'd want to speak to him more about that name in particular. What does the MSCI mean? It's a fund. They have a bunch of assets under management from their clients, right? But Morgan Stanley tracks. They've got a ton of institutional clientele and a lot of relationships with other, you know, large institutional investors that are also tracking their funds. You know, you'll see it from time to time where large institutions are also buying Berkshire or Carl Icahn Enterprises or these sort of things. But the big ones, the really, really big ones, I'm talking about the QQQs or S&P 500, Morgan Stanley, BlackRock. Those are the ones that you want to try to get entry into, because if you can, there's trillions of dollars that end up tracking those. That doesn't mean that trillions of dollars end up going to SoFi, but if they get a 0.3%, you know, weighting in those funds, that could be, you know, $2+ billion of inflows into a company that's $30 billion. It's a massive, massive percentage to end up adding to the company for free. And essentially, during volatile times, they will not be selling the stock as much. Now, during hard times, the companies, whenever they go up, indexes will increase them in their weighting. You see that in the S&P 500, that they're increasing their weighting in those funds. So then they end up actually buying, you know, more. But in the same way, on the downturn, you also see a similar effect. What is their percentage of SoFi in their portfolio? It'll be an extremely small amount. I have not seen what the amount was. I've just been basing it on the size of their company, which would put them at around $19 million or so. But MSCI, from what I could see from their funds, they buy most equities. They buy a lot. So it'll be a small amount. But through all institutions that are tracking it, which is about $2 trillion or so that tracks MSCI, it'll be a good enough amount where we do see some volume, and it'll encourage more shorts to realize that it's a much harder play to short SoFi. It's not as easy whenever you have indexes that are also force buying passively on those companies. You're Canadian? Yes, I'm Canadian. Did I say a word that gave it away? His ETF owns PayPal too. I don't actually think that's true. I think Tom Lee sold out of PayPal recently. I could check. We could check the Granny ETF prospectus. Let's see. Or let's go to holdings really quick. No, this is from January. Where can we find an updated Granny Shots ETF rebalance notification for August 14th? That's probably the most updated one. And now let's see if he has PayPal in here. He got rid of FICO and PayPal. Yeah, right there. PayPal was just deleted. But, I mean, they got in Broadcom. Yeah, I think that's Expedia as well. VST, those are exciting. But, yeah, Apple, AMD, Amazon, those are interesting. Axon, American Express, Costco. I can't even believe that's crazy to me. That's very expensive. Obviously, it'll probably have continuously, increased earnings. So if you're buying based on that and not caring about the valuation, depends on how the fund's objectives actually line up to how they purchase stocks, then that could make sense. But Google, Nvidia, Oracle, Palo Alto, Palantir, these names make a lot of sense for someone who is very bullish on the market and is loving AI, loving multiple different spaces overall. So one of the things that I find interesting about the Granny portfolio is that he has a system where he looks for themes, right? So you can have cyclical names or AI names, retail base. There's so many different aspects that they look for, but each individual company has to be under two separate themes. So he won't buy something for just one individual theme, which also makes me think that SoFi could get added in there because they do end up playing in a lot of different themes and there's many things that work for them. That's why SoFi has done so well in every market environment, is that, no, SoFi, what a rookie. I think that the appreciation in SoFi stock, while also being added to indexes, will make more institutions take a second look at SoFi. Whenever I'm talking about generational businesses, there's a type of investor, right? I listen to Chris Camillo or, Derek Wall was on Amit's channel recently. These types of people, they try to bet on, or at least sometimes, these generational like businesses. They'll bet on Robinhood, they'll bet on Tesla, they'll bet on Palantir. They're buying the next potential ecosystem and they can pay whatever price that they want to buy the companies that they believe 10 years from now will reshape, business in general, right? Change the list of the top 100 businesses. Whenever I'm talking to those people, I don't often pitch SoFi because there's too many holes in which they could pick through the name. The problem is, I would pitch more along the lines of like Nvidia or something like this to see if they also align with those names, and usually they do, right? But SoFi will get its time in the sun. They are just going to need to continue to push on the loan platform business, show that their underwriting is better than their peers, and get into loan platform business for student loans, for home loans, get into the tech platform for other areas. So as that happens, I think that more of the innovative investors will be able to take large bets on SoFi. But we're already starting to see it. I mean, look at the multiple that we were paying on the stock. We were around a 1 times price to book, and now we're around, coming up on a 5 times price to book. So it is being, repriced. But as Kevin here says in chat, SoFi is a sleeper. And I do actually think it is. Yeah. Have you talked about Ethereum yet? Only just a little bit in how I'm going to play it and the price targets that Tom Lee ended up putting on Ethereum. By the way, guys, if he is right and he believes that Ethereum is going to go to 10,000, 12,000, BMNR will be one of the greatest investments. I'm not advocating for anyone to purchase this, but the ability for it to stay so low during this time, and they are aggressively acquiring more Ethereum. He wants to get to a 5% ownership stake. Okay. That will be an unbelievable bet into the future if it does end up going from 4,600 up to 12,000 by end of year. We're 3 months and change away from that. It's unbelievable. SoFi's like the next undefeated up and coming boxer. Yeah, it's just not immediately viral. It's the boxer that had to take out every other challenger. It's not immediately fighting the champion. We got to take a slow roll there. Thoughts on SoFi's calls, best risk reward timing? I'm not financial advice. I'm not a options expert at all. I don't really dabble in options. I couldn't tell you. I don't think that that's a space that I look into so often. In fact, I actually do quite a lot of the opposite, the covered calls. I'll let you guys make the risky bets. I'll take the easy, drip feed that's just a little bit safer, and I get to not guarantee an upside, but increase that chance. BMNR over MicroStrategy or strategy now? I would think so. I'm pretty unique in that thinking, I guess, but the reason why I love the treasury companies for Ethereum, obviously I understand the fixed supply on MicroStrategy, but even if they do get to a point where they own too much Bitcoin, I actually think it dilutes the value of Bitcoin, knowing how centralized it is, that there's a single player that owns so much of it. So, I think Michael Saylor has to play a little bit of a balance game of not owning too much Bitcoin, but also trying to acquire as much as possible. I think that that's an interesting topic. But BMNR, Ethereum has a built-in staking system, and the way that you get paid for Bitcoin is to run compute, and it's not a very profitable business. Obviously, it is designed to make profit, but it's not designed to increase operating leverage. So as the GPUs, as the cost of energy goes down, the hash rate goes up, and it goes up not linearly, but equally. So there is no beating the system, essentially. There can be if there's an individual player that does something so differently than others, like potentially a CleanSpark or something like this. But that's really the only way that you're going to make any yield on Bitcoin. Now, well, aside from borrowing and these sort of things. But for the most part, it's a lot more flexible on the Ethereum side because it's just built right into the system of proof of stake, right? What do you think of Iren? I don't think too many things of Iren. But yeah, I don't really often think about them. I'm not looking into too many really small names right now, even if they are in the data center space. Yeah. I apologize for not having an answer on that specific name type. Thank you for the donation, but it's just not one I could give you any additional information on. It's not one I look into. Tanner, are you invested in BMNR? I think I'm going to take a stake in BMNR this week. If Tom Lee, I don't usually go off of analyst predictions, even if they are the top guys. I don't know if I believe that Ethereum will get to 10 to 12,000 by end of year. I think that we do end up seeing those prices eventually. Maybe it's in 2026. By end of year seems steep. Maybe it happens. In that case, I do want to be a shareholder regardless, because I do think Ethereum does end up getting to 10 to 12,000, and I'm very patient. But yeah. Am I investing in Meta? Not currently, but that's another one that I want, shares in. I think right now I have a lot of, Starship launch. I mean, we can check that out, right? SpaceX. Are they live streaming it? I'm not seeing a live stream. Why aren't they live streaming it? Oh, they are. Okay, good. What's up?
Vehicles pitching downrange.
That's a building.
Booster chamber pressure nominal.
That's a building going to the sky. It's unbelievable.
All right, we're a little over 40 seconds into flight. 33 out of
Booster
33
ship,
Raptor
avionics,
engines.
power and telemetry nominal.
Getting good call outs, healthy systems on the booster as it starts to pitch over the Gulf.
It's going 1,000 kilometers per hour. That's how fast Amit was going to get up to the Miami meet, which is crazy. Driving in his Tesla. I told him reckless driving, but he got there. He wanted to get there for you guys. But need more rocket labs? Yeah, I don't cover enough of the space industry. Obviously, if I was to take a share in a space company, I would like it to be SpaceX. But if I had SoFi Invest, maybe I could get some shares of SpaceX. SoFi to 30 before ETH doubles? I think that that's very possible. I mean, let's not underestimate how hard it would be for Ethereum. Like, a lot of volume needs to happen for Ethereum to get to 4,600, for example. So I think that's absolutely plausible, especially after MSCI. I think that that's very doable. Let's turn this back on. I'm interested to hear this. Okay. When do you think we'll be mining in space?
All right, seeing the engine start to throttle down.
Miko. Ship ignition. Boost back burn startup. Stage separation.
Stage separation confirmed. We've got 6 engines running on ship. Booster is doing its boost back burn, continuing now towards its splashdown site in the Gulf.
Ship
We are
Raptor
seeing
chamber
all 6
pressure is
Raptors
nominal.
lit up on ship.
Crazy that they need a second camera to show off the booster that's going to go.
You heard them report ship chamber pressures nominal, so that chamber pressure, just that expected thrust level in those Raptor engines on the ship. 3 vacuum optimized,
Ship
3 C
avionics,
level,
power and
all
telemetry
looking
nominal.
good.
I'd love to go up to space. I would love to.
There's a view into the business end from the ship.
Boost back burn shutdown.
Would you guys end up paying for, sort of a commercial tourist type version?
All right, so at this point, we finished our boost back burn, so that was shut down. So that's the first of the 2 burns after a launch that the booster is going to do today. So now it's headed towards the Gulf. It's not going to be quite as an aggressive of a flight down. We relaxed that angle of attack a little bit, but we are then going to be looking for it to do its engine tests for the landing burn.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to see if I can. Actually, let me put this on. I just need to make sure that.
3. But one of our test objectives for today is to simulate what an engine out situation would look like. So we're going to be intentionally turning off one of those center 3 and instead lighting one of the engines from the middle 10 ring.
Yeah, we did see one of those engines in the middle ring shut down during the initial ascent. Oh, looks like we have hot stage jettison. You can see it floating away there to the left of the booster.
BMNR to 250 by end of year. I think that there could be a much higher appreciation of BMNR than Ethereum. So if it does go from, what is it, 4,600 up to 12,000 by end of year, that essentially would put a 3x on BMNR just on the asset value, keeping the same multiple. But I think that would also probably extend the sentiment on, BMNR as well, that they still will be able to accumulate more shares of Ethereum. So I think that the multiple could expand. So if we end up getting to 12,000 or so, I don't know if 250 is that crazy. Here, give me one quick second. I just need to let the dog out of the room. Okay, I'm back. 250 is a lot. 250 is a heck of a lot. Let me put this back on. This is crazy.
Looks like we got 12 of those 13.
Down to 3, including one of the middle ring. Down to 2. Nice little hover. And landing burn shutdown. And into the Gulf, here we come. And the booster has splashed down.
Incredible flight for booster today.
That's nutty.
Meanwhile, back in space, about 7 minutes into today's flight, ship continuing its ascent burn. This goes until just about 9 minutes into our flight. That ship engine cutoff is slated for 8 minutes and 57 seconds. We are going to see those 3 RVAC, the Raptor vacuum engines. Those are the bigger circles in that little indicator.
Okay. Let's see. This thing is also taking up what I'm going to have to just block this for a sec. Let me throw this over here. And then I'll get it back up here in a sec. It was just also taking away my topics of the day. There we go. Aside from that as well, did we even talk about the fact that Interactive Brokers ended up getting into the S&P 500? I think that happened after I was not live yesterday because I went early I went live early, had a little bit of time while the market was closing. SoFi was above $26 per share. We ended up closing at $25.62 today, but now it's sitting at $25.90 in the after hours. I think a little bit of excitement from MSCI inclusion, the volume that we ended up seeing right at the end of the day. But Interactive Brokers ended up getting into the S&P 500. Not SoFi, not Robinhood. I think that this actually puts a little bit of pressure on Robinhood getting in, because just recently they've added a crypto brokerage. They've added a more traditional online brokerage as well through Interactive Brokers. So I don't know how soon they will be, wanting to add another brokerage. It's a lot of financials recently. Block, IBKR, Coin. I think I'm missing another one as well. But it did replace Walgreens, which is probably due. Bought more SoFi today. Hey, if you're a believer in the long term of SoFi, then buying on a dip is not too bad of a play here. When is Robinhood Banking launching? I think that's expected for September, October, November, that sort of range. I think the original was, October, but we haven't heard too much about that. So I think they might be a little bit flexible on the pricing here. I just want to turn on the volume really quick here.
We had our soft splashdown in the Gulf, so ship continues on.
Yeah, ship able to complete its ascent burn all the way in. You can see some of the shadows start to creep as it's going to be eventually flying into an orbital nighttime. So we'll see some daylight start to go away. But ship is in orbit, completed its burn. And I mean, that's just the beginning. Now we've got a whole bunch more to go. So we've got some exciting demonstrations
Ship
planned
FTS is
while
safe.
we're on orbit. So that right there, we just saved the FTS, the flight termination system. That's that automatic flight safety system we have on the vehicle. So that is now turned off while ship starts its coast period. We are coming up our next mile.
The fact that they're going 26,400 kilometers an hour right now is insane. This is Starship. Yes, this is the big one. Is Nubank still a buy? I would think so. I would absolutely think that Nubank is a buy if you're a long-term shareholder. In fact, there was some news today about Nubank that ended up coming out from Bloomberg that said that Nubank CEO visited Argentina and met at the offices of the crypto company Lemon Cash. So this was a little bit interesting. There's some talk about a potential acquisition that's getting floated around. Obviously, Nubank is wanting entry into Argentina. Are they going to do it via acquisition? Are they setting up partnerships for entry into Argentina? Who knows? But yeah, there is some changes that's happening at Nubank, and I think that it's been some time since we've seen a large new catalyst at Nubank. It's sort of just been, hey, let's improve operational efficiency. Let's continue to climb in the amount of users that we have in our existing geographies. But if they end up purchasing like Lemon, for example, I think they operate in Argentina and Peru. Maybe that opens us up into two new areas. And Lemon, from what I read, is that their valuation of their last funding round, they were valued at $44 million. So it's a tiny purchase for Nubank if they end up spending 80 million, something like this, to acquire the whole business. That could be quite interesting. Tanner, why is SoFi number 2 in your portfolio? I missed the opportunity. Tanner, why is SoFi number 2 in your portfolio? It's not true. It's number 3. I missed the opportunity on it because I didn't know too much about it and kept putting it off. I don't know what you're saying. Are you saying that it's not high enough or it's very high? I think that SoFi is an amazing opportunity. So it's my third biggest position. Out of I think 17 names right now. So it's very, very high up on that list. But NVIDIA is my sort of generational play. That's the thing that's made me rich. That's the thing that I think will continue to, build on any bit of success that I've had. So that is my big bet right now is artificial intelligence. So if I could continue to increase my position in SoFi, I think that there's opportunities for me to do that. But overall, NVIDIA is a big name for me. The biggest. When did you first buy NVIDIA? December of 2018. AI is a bubble, though? I disagree. I think that there's private equity names that have nothing and are being valued at billions of dollars because people want the next OpenAI and they're willing to bet on every founder and every serial entrepreneur who is trying to make a name in the AI space because they all see the opportunity there. But I don't think that necessarily means that every name in the space is in a bubble. Is OpenAI in a bubble? Is NVIDIA in a bubble? I would say absolutely not. So what's number 2? Shopify. Shopify is number 2, SoFi number 3. I made tons on SoFX. I mean, that's, if you did make a lot of money, congratulations, but that still is very risky. Obviously. Where's Dookie? She should know you're rich. I didn't necessarily mean rich like that. I meant more along the lines of for any bit of money that I do have, a lot of it has been made on NVIDIA. I don't think there's a single name that's made me even close to the amount that I've made on NVIDIA. So any bit of claim to fame has been very well tied to NVIDIA. Not that I'm benchmarking myself to any sort of, mark or something like this. Is Shopify still a buy? It is richly priced, and I'm not looking to buy any more, but they are a cash cow machine, and I believe that they will be a generational business. So it's one of those companies like saying, is Palantir a buy? Well, I'm not going to sell, or if I were to place myself in the same mindset of a Palantir investor, will they continue to be a massive name, continue to grow, expand margins, focus on the new technologies that allow them to stay first place? Yes, I think that Shopify fits all those names. Is it expensive? Still yes. But it'll probably always be expensive. Why did SoFi dip today? Buy the dip for the community fund. Absolutely, Piyush, sorry, will absolutely purchase SoFi for the community fund. But in terms of why they ended up moving, it was such a small move. I don't think it was a reaction to really anything. I mean, maybe you could say Lisa Cook news through the Fed, that maybe there was just a little bit of worries there, uncertainties that Trump might be changing who is on the Fed in order to get a policy that he wants, which he's already stated he wants about 100 basis points worth of cuts, and thinks that that's what Jerome Powell and the committee should be doing. So if he can find a reason for one of the committee members to end up, potentially leaving, that might favor him personally. Not personally, but his administration as well. Now, overall, the outcome that Trump wants, which is a lot of rate cuts, would actually go to benefit SoFi. But what sort of precedent does that set, right? If you're not being careful about inflation or jobs numbers or something else that could be, that we could be looking at, that also, like, rate cuts doesn't necessarily solve, doesn't 100% solve those sort of ideas. Obviously, it does help with jobs and everything, but it's not a cure-all. And so there could still be problems for SoFi. But yeah. Do you have any opinions on, or do you own Coinbase stock, Tanner? I do not own Coinbase stock. I am very positive on Coinbase. I've for too long have been worried about the price that they end up charging to their, consumer customers. And I see where the industry is going, and I see that margin falling, like, greatly, getting cut more than in half, by 2/3 essentially over short periods of time. I'm actually surprised that they're able to charge as much as they have been for the last 2 years without a lot of margin compression on their consumer side. But after talking with Devin Ryan and these sort of things, or these sort of analysts, they've essentially said that I'm just looking at it all wrong, and that if I look at any other brokerage space, that there will be margin compression across the board. What it also does whenever you see margin compression is that it expands the TAM. So if you charge less to buy cryptocurrency, more people can purchase cryptocurrency. And then that will fill the gap. And that Devin Ryan was pretty adamant during our conversations that he said, they are big believers that Coinbase will be able to fill that gap. And then on the technology side, on Coinbase Prime and the other tools that they offer to their institutions, that they essentially will be the AWS, the Amazon Web Services of crypto, the Coinbase crypto services, right? So if that ends up happening, they will continue to be larger and larger if, you are a believer that Bitcoin continues to climb, that Ethereum goes to $12,000 by end of year. If Tom Lee's predictions are true, there will be a lot of demand for Ethereum, for more layer twos. There'll be all of this demand and action within the blockchain, which will then go to benefit Coinbase greatly. So I do think that buying those toll road like businesses are always great bets. And on a more micro scale, the founder, Brian Armstrong, is extremely young and hungry. He's an unbelievable founder. He's insanely apolitical. I love Brian Armstrong, and the team of engineers at that team are literally A+. I've talked to a few people in the industry, and whenever they talk about the expert teams in the field, they say, Robinhood's up there. Nubank, actually, they don't place too high, but I place Nubank very high. But Coinbase is also absolutely A+. So that's just the way that I see it. The coin or the base app ain't it. Well, I actually do think that it's fine. There might be parts within the base app, like the social media stuff, that is not potentially to your favor, but I think that the base app is fine. I think that that's it's good. I bought Coinbase as well as it was falling. Watch the rocket now. It's still on my screen. I've been following it. Are they releasing the satellites right now? Let's hear it really quick.
Massive increase in the amount of bandwidth. It's going to enable gigabit upload download for people with Starlink, anywhere on the planet. And for us, Starlink is just a tremendous part of just the Starship flight test program.
Yeah, absolutely. Always getting us that data. And yeah, the
By the way, is that true? Gigabit upload and download from Starlink? I did not know it was that good. I thought it was closer to like 150 up and down.
Of us deploying Starlink simulators before we deploy actual Starlinks. How deep does it go? All right, another one firing out.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting business, eh? And I guess that's why Rocket Lab is also doing so well, is you get easy public equity that
Pez looking smooth today.
will also play a part in this industry. But going through my types of investments, I like to buy the number one positions. And if I am going to buy the number one positions, there is no other name for me to look at other than SpaceX. The new satellites are gigabit, which is crazy. That's unbelievable. Oh, that's not me. That's them. Wow.
All right, looks like we've got one left.
almost there.
Are they returning immediately, by the way, after they deploy all these? Do they head back down and
There you go,
re-land?
one remaining. So 7 of the 8 have been deployed, 1 more to go. And then we will have completed our first ever payload deploy operation. Just a reminder, we're on a suborbital trajectory. These satellites on that exact same suborbital trajectory, they're going to burn up entirely and are on that same trajectory towards the Indian Ocean. So the last one has been deployed. Starlink simulator payload complete. Heck yeah, everybody.
No, they need a window to return. Okay. Cool. Very, very cool. I'll keep it up if probably a week or two. Okay. All right. Would you consider switching some NVIDIA for BMNR? Not a chance. I don't have to read the rest of what you said. If NVIDIA is going to do 12.5% in the same period that BMNR goes 3x, no. There's no guarantees that BMNR is going to 3x. I mean, I'm hopeful, but this is why speculative assets deserve speculative sizes in my portfolio. You know, I have near surefire belief that NVIDIA will continue to do great things. It has, you know, national security implications. I just think of them very differently. So, and plus, I do still think that NVIDIA has a lot more to go. I think, you know, what was I going to say? NVIDIA essentially, in my, you know, sort of full bull case, I do see it at a $10 trillion company. I know that seems crazy, but I do think we'll be alive for that. You can always come back to NVIDIA after. Yeah, but I could come back to NVIDIA with less money than what I had before. You know, no thank you. I think that there's reason to believe like there's a high chance of something like that happening, but things happen. Maybe, you know, Ethereum is not the chain that ends up being built for institutional rails. It seems like that right now, but it is early. I'm not worried about the tax part. No, I would make the switch. You're only getting taxed on your gains. So I'd have the gains in order to pay the taxes. But yeah. But also, you know, I continue to write covered calls on my NVIDIA position, and that's an awesome place to be. When are you moving your NVIDIA back to Tesla? I want to. I want to see Elon re-engaged into the business. And from what it sounds like, the next 2 quarters are not where he is going to be engaged. And so you see him focusing a lot like on XAI or SpaceX in these parts or these private businesses that he has much higher equity stakes in rather than the small equity stake that he has in Tesla. So unless he has like a very aggressive pay package going forward, and also closer to some, you know, couple of breakout periods, I don't think I have to rush into that investment. And for all the rashy crap that I took about that investment of trading out of Tesla and putting it into NVIDIA, you can look at the returns. It was an unbelievable trade. Well, I can't say I mean, that's a ridiculous statement. For me, someone who does not trade and does not move around his portfolio a lot, I'm very happy that I made that decision. Obviously, there are traders and investors that do much better than that one trade, but that was my second biggest position. Consolidating that and putting it into my first biggest position was a big trade for me. And I don't do that often. Tesla outperforms NVIDIA next 2 to 3 years. Steve, you make a lot of these sayings like, hey, why don't I do BMNR if it's going to outperform, you know, NVIDIA, or Tesla is going to outperform? You're making a lot of guarantees without chance of, you know, risk. I think a big part of investing is the risk side. So, yeah. I do eventually want to get back in. I don't have to rush. 30 to 40 minutes until re-entry. You said it was 2 weeks. I don't think it's time. They already said the next 2 quarters are going to be lackluster. You know, there are great names that I can buy for the next 6 months. All right, 30 to 40 minutes until reentry. We will I'll keep an eye on that. I just got a message from Data Driven Investing that says accretive is not a word. I think you mean accretive. I do mean accretive. You're right. But me no do good words sometimes. I do my best. Hopefully you guys are following based on the picks that I make, not on my English lessons, because you will have realized that's not my strong suit. But the good thing is, like Warren Buffett says, you don't really need a high IQ in order to buy stocks. You just need patience. And I've got a whole lot of patience. Quickly talking about Tesla, by the way, I thought that this was quite interesting. Their expansion in Austin, Texas for Robotaxi has expanded quite quickly. June 22nd to June 14th, August 3rd, then August 26th, they have expanded and continuously expanded in the Austin region. That is very exciting to watch. You know, hopefully they continue to expand not only in these areas, but in, I think it was Chicago, New York. What were the other ones where they were asking for drivers for safety drivers for the Robotaxi? But they weren't drivers. They were just, almost like sidecar assistants. Paul, thank you for the $2 for speech therapy. That's not going to help. I honestly think that Amit gave me some sort of disease here or something. He's got some speech thing that's rubbing off on me, and now I'm pronouncing everything incorrectly. They aren't drivers. They're more expensive than taxi drivers. Yeah, and they also don't drive. Let's see. The next 2 quarters for Tesla are likely financially lackluster, but if FSD goes unsupervised, stock will explode before the revenue ramps. Well, I agree that stocks are forward-looking and that I'm not just going to base my trades off of the financial outlook. I'm not even 100% sure that I even agree that the bull case for Tesla is even Robotaxi anymore. I mean, what is the revenue expectations for Robotaxi? This is the thing that I continue to struggle with. And it's like, is it going to bring in billions? Yeah, probably. Is it going to bring in $900 billion per annum, like Kathy Wood says? I mean, absolutely. I cannot see that happening at all. I have a very hard time envisioning that. There's going to be a lot of players with full self-driving. I think NVIDIA is going to play a big part in that, enabling all of Tesla's competitors. I think that NVIDIA is going to do that with robots as well, is that they are going to enable a network of competitors. It's almost going to be like Apple versus Android. Android is going to be made up of a ton of smaller players, while Apple is still going to own a majority share. Okay. But that also probably means that worldwide, Android probably has a larger market share worldwide, and that in America, there still is some percentage of the other players that do survive and thrive and does not actually just have to be all Tesla. And in that case, what's the valuation? What's the premium that you put on Robotaxi? TAM is enormous if cost per mile is under 50 cents. I mean, where are you getting those numbers? The TAM would be even huge if it's less than 10 cents. But I do still think, like, I do think that FSD is an exciting part, but I also think that the valuation is pricing in a lot of, exciting things into the future. So I'm just not in a rush. I'm not in a rush. I can take my time. For the people who are, sitting on that position, I understand what you're bullish about. I get it. I'm also excited about the future, but there's other ways to play a boom in FSD or artificial intelligence or humanoid robotics without having to just play Tesla individually. And some of those names I actually think are much, much cheaper. How's the community port doing? Let's take a look. The community portfolio is up. It's actually kind of interesting today because SoFi was not up today, which was our biggest position. So yesterday we were up on the day. Well, the entire portfolio was red, but SoFi was green. And then today it's the opposite. SoFi is red and everything else is green. We're still up. Now, overall, since the community portfolio has started, we have not made the greatest investments, you guys. For the new people who are watching, this is not my portfolio, okay? This is the problem. I think some people end up watching this and they're like, wow, why are we following this guy? He's down. These are your picks, okay? All donations that come in essentially say, hey, buy the dip and put this in the community fund, SoFi. So we add SoFi $10 worth, and then that gets added as just additional fractional shares to the overall SoFi, fund. Just a fun way, just a fun thing to do. But we got a little bit slammed with SBET. I know it's green right now today, but if we look in the total, it was a pretty large position. We're down 46.7%. If Ethereum ends up going to $12,000 by end of year, okay, then I think that SBET is going to go much, much higher. So I'm actually not too. I think we're fine on this portfolio. I actually think that we will be green soon. I think you guys did good. You clearly invested our money wrong. Well, I appreciate the donations. It is kind of hard to watch a donate, and I'm actually buying these, right? So I'll put them in, and then I'm like, oh man, it's down 46%. I gotta pay tax on the original amount. Okay, YouTube takes their cut. Everything. I'm filling that gap. YouTube takes like a 30% cut. I fill the gap. And then it's down a ton. I'm like, why did I do this? But it is still, I'm so happy we started this. It's so much fun to track. I do get super excited whenever it does go green. And I can't wait for the total to be green once again. I'm sick of being down 11% or sorry, 6.5% now. And it'll be very exciting whenever we go green. But look how many freaking names are in here. We're at 98 names. That is incredible. Yeah, it's a tax write-off. Yeah. We have 98 names. Absolutely incredible. How much grab you got in there? We definitely do have grab. Not a ton, I don't think. I'm sure all of your guys' favorite names are in here. This is just essentially a barometer for retail, right? This is retail picks. I also think that there's like a good balance of names that you guys probably have in your portfolio, but yet we get the more risky names in people's portfolios, like the more speculative names. For example, I think if you were to look at Amit's portfolio, he has a ton of Palantir. He has a ton of Robinhood. And he's building out, and I think continuously building out a position in Grab, right? But I would say that that is his more speculative name out of those three. I think he did end up donating to put it into the portfolio as well. Amit did. And I think he put Grab in. Please sort the community by percent gain. Those were daily percent gains. By total percent gain, you can see it here. I don't know how to. Neo is our biggest winner. Bloom Energy, 45%. Nebius, Kratos, Energy Fuels, Rocket, Lemonade, Joby, Shopify, American Eagle, SoFi, BMNR, Baba. This is a much better way of looking at it. Now we can go to the bottom and see, and no way is that true. Oh my gosh. The name that was one of the largest positions in our entire portfolio is percentage-wise the worst investment. We had someone come into the chat and give an unbelievable amount of money to put into that fund. Yeah, the Community 100. That's what it should be called. The Community 100. That's so freaking funny. We'll get a few more names. Obviously, Cash is one of them, so we'll have to, remove that. So we can take on 3 more names after that. I wonder if we just start to rebalance or we just let it get stupid and we just go to 200 names or something. Yeah, once this portfolio goes green, we're at a top. Not just the market is green, but we're at a top. Buy some D local, says Necro. I absolutely will buy D local. I think that that's a pretty interesting name and one that I could see myself getting into for my own portfolio. So I will have no problem buying that, but I don't recognize that currency. Uruguayan peso. Wow. Wow, cool. Thank you. I appreciate the donation. Okay. Buy Chainlink. Yeah, so it's not I'm not doing any crypto names or levered ETFs or stuff like that. It's just going to be individual equities like D local, for example. Dookie, can we put SBET into yeah, if somehow Dookie Pie can talk to Tom Lee to get SBET into the Granny Shots ETF. I wonder because I'm sure there will be some conflicting remarks about him purchasing BMNR or something like this for that fund, because obviously there's a lot of disclosures in finance, but I'm sure they're actually, it would be okay if he ended up buying SBET. So is he that bullish on Ethereum that he would buy a competitor? They don't necessarily compete for the same customers. They might compete for the same investors. But yeah. Do you have a large crypto portfolio? Any names beside Bitcoin and Ethereum? Actually, one of the largest names that I have in crypto is Solana, but large crypto portfolio, no. I would say it makes up for single-digit percentages of my overall portfolio. Like my entire SoFi position makes up for more than all of my crypto bets. But then I also play crypto through a lot of other means. Like I'm a big Robinhood shareholder, for example. So, those are bets on cryptocurrency. And I actually think that SoFi will be a bet on cryptocurrency as well in the future. We've heard the CEO talk about tokenizing loans. That's going to be huge. What do you think about Grab? I don't really think about Grab. I don't know the geography very well, and Amit really does. So it's a position that suits his investing style. I prefer to invest in Nubank, and I think that those should be looked at very similarly, or at least more similarly than they have been in the past. Obviously, I'm aware that Nubank or Grab is more diversified in their revenue streams than Nubank, but Nubank is going to expand very, very quickly outside of non-financial products, or sorry, into non-financial products outside of just the financial products that they've mainly dealt in. Tanner, what's the FI mean on the bottom right of your screen mean? I'm sure you could figure it out. If you thought about it long enough, I bet you could figure it out. If I gave you a key to the escape room and they said, hey, you need to, the code to get to that key is you need to figure out what FI means for, Tanner's YouTube channel in the bottom right-hand corner, you would get out of that room. I don't think you would die in that room. You would get out. Want to play a game? Future investing. No, I'm just clowning. I know you're probably new. I appreciate. Hopefully, you don't think I'm picking on you too much. It was a good opportunity for me to make a good joke. I forgot the I. Yeah, on my YouTube, or sorry, on my X, I it's not that I forgot the I. It's that someone else had it. But on the actual YouTube channel, it's future investing. Tanner, have you decided to sell your trade desk position? Yes, I did sell my trade desk position, but it's more of just a battleground stock and too much of a headache for me than rather thinking that they're going to die off or that they cannot possibly grow. I just see a higher chance of success or a better path through AppLovin and other advertising names like Google, potentially Meta, Amazon, all of these names that I've been more interested in lately. Now, I do think that the trade desk has an interesting market dynamic of not actually having conflicts in the market, and that their customers will actually think that they're representing them better on a buy side because they don't, route those impressions to their own platform, which I think is a little bit of a bad practice by potentially Amazon or Google, and that, Google will probably end up having to leave that segment, Google Networks, because of that. I should make up with Roy. What's wrong with Roy? I was talking to him yesterday. Roy's the boy. He's the best. Honestly, I think Roy is one of the best people that I've ever met. Like, just outside of YouTube, in my own personal life, I mean, he is actually like, protect Roy at all costs. He is an unbelievable guy. But just because, like, that's how I think of him personally. Now let me tell you how I really feel about him. No. But from his investing standpoint, there are things that I disagree with. Not all the time. I think most things we actually align with, and that's why we talk so often. But we don't have to agree with everything. Paying my stupid question fine for the NVIDIA one. Is this what you guys do with other channels? You guys accidentally say something that you think is a dumb question and then you're forced to pay? You definitely don't have to do a stupid question fine. Thank you, though, Steve. I appreciate the donation regardless. Roy and you have had a lot of tension recently, and it's palpable. Guys, that cannot be true. I sit and talk with Roy sometimes for hours after the stream ends about everything, you know? There's aspects of his Google position or SoFi position, stuff like this, that I want more clarification on the reason why he thinks a certain way, but that's just our differing in opinions. That does not change the way that I think about Roy at all. At all. The same thing with I had a conversation with Brad Freeman today. I have the utmost respect for Brad Freeman, but I do not agree with him on the way that he thinks about Ethereum. Okay. I'm very bullish on Ethereum right now, and he won't touch it because it's a cryptocurrency, but he's a great investor. So I don't want the fact that it's crypto to stop him from looking into what could be a new asset class, great returns, stuff like this. We may never see eye to eye, but that doesn't change my respect, my any feelings that I have about Brad Freeman. I also think that it makes for really interesting content if people disagree. You know? Oh, let's get a show where 4 people get in a room and just say the exact same thing 4 times. No, I mean, I think what's nice is a little bit of a debate, and me and Amit have it all the time. Roy, Tevis. Maybe I'm a little combative, but I think that that's lent well to some good debate, and it's fun. Yeah, I think I am getting baited into fake drama. It's not. I'm gonna have to send a message to Roy after and be like, "Hey, are we good?" People said we weren't good. Yeah, the biggest tension. Yeah, but the second that stream ended, I said, Amit, that was awesome, man. He goes, yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then we, we're being honest in our opinions in those debates, but it doesn't change how we feel about each other or whatever. And by the way, just to clarify, just so everyone's on the same page, I was 100% right and he was wrong. Yeah, Brad also did say he's not in the majority. He's not in the majority anymore. And I hope that you guys also think very similarly about Ethereum, is that I think that some people will get you in a way of thinking things. Let's say you were an investor back in 2017 and crypto, Bitcoin starts to rise. You're trying to understand the case. The government wants nothing to do with it. Most institutions, 99.9% of institutions want nothing to do with it. But you have a person in your family or a friend group who is talking about how fiat is essentially going to zero, how they're printing their way into weaker and weaker dollars, and how Bitcoin is capped at the supply and cannot be changed. They're orange pilling you on this idea. But something in the back of your mind goes, well, yeah, but the government, this is not good for the reserve currency. They could take this away at any time. Well, not take it away exactly, but just force that it can not be used by businesses and has to be an illegal to transact user to user. And they can't obviously shut down the system, but if they catch you using system to system interactions, then they'll target and throw you in jail or something like this. That can happen. Plus, getting out of Bitcoin is one of the things that the government has been able to control. So they essentially have a blacklist for wallets that they can tell in exchange, hey, if you see these wallets, do not let them off ramp into crypto. Okay. And in fact, if someone tries to sign in with that wallet, then tell us who has that legal, address to, anyway. So you can blacklist addresses. So that was for some people a concern because Bitcoin had a threat on the US currency dominance. And I understand that. And then as time has gone on and crypto then ended up crashing in 2018, then people felt vindicated in those viewpoints. I knew it was a Ponzi scheme. I was right all along Thank gosh I didn't touch this because it went from 18,000 down to 4,000, something like this, back all the way back then in that time period. And you get stuck in that way. And then in the next ramp up to 60,000, you go, it's a Ponzi scheme. It'll come all the way back down, and you're reiterating these ideas. But in the background, things are changing legally. Corporations are picking it up. Governments are picking it up. I think back even in the next rise to 60,000, a little bit after the 20,000 mark is whenever El Salvador and all of these things, and they were mining Bitcoin using the the steam that was rising off the volcanic. I forget what it is. I'm not a big energy guy, but you know what I'm saying. As those things start to come in and more people are starting to change their ways, it does change the bull case for Bitcoin, for Ethereum. Start to see, geothermal. Thank you so much. Stable coins was a big change. Okay, flat coins, these sort of things. That has changed the bull case for Ethereum. And you could still be bearish on all of that, even though stable coins plays a much different role than you could say that Bitcoin threatens the United States dollar. It's very hard for you to say that stable coins threatens the United States dollar because those dollars are still being backed 1-to-1. And so those US dollars still need to be held regardless of where, like Circle or Tether still needs to hold them regardless of where that customer is in the world. So it actually strengthens US dollars. So that might change your perspective. And then going further out, then we have the Genius Act. Now we're going to have the Clarity Act later on. Now the United States government is supporting the backing of cryptocurrency. And if you are, and I'm not trying to be rude to these people, but if you are stubborn enough to not change your viewpoint on cryptocurrency during those time periods of changing regulation, the backing of central banks, large corporations, Visa, MasterCard, like the biggest payment networks in the entire world, PayPal, Fiserv, all of these names saying, hey, we are integrating with stablecoins, writing press releases saying this is the next thing. This is the next thing. And you're going, no, it's a Ponzi scheme. I mean, look in the environment around you and see how much it's changed. It is not the same. Okay? If you think this is some sort of Bernie Madoff thing where it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and then, the whole rug gets pulled out from underneath it, I mean, good luck to you. But, yeah. Just like a stock leaving a bad taste in your mouth. Oh, well, that's true too, but I'm also anti that idea. If a stock has done bad for you previously, it doesn't mean that it's a bad stock. Right? Like maybe some people are anti-Carvana or something like this, but I think it's just bad practice to be anti a name, especially if it has made a real recovery. I'm not talking about Open Door or something like this where sentiment has changed. There's nothing fundamentally that's changed about Open Door just yet. Hopefully something does change. But right now, that's sentiment. And I understand if you're still bearish on that. But ETH is changing. The environment for cryptocurrency is changing. And I disagree with the people who say, yeah, but you know what? It's just, I don't need to play it. And it's, it gives me ick, or I don't know what, some people just get caught in their ways. I think it's almost like missing out on artificial intelligence or missing out on the next technology area. And instead you're betting on McDonald's and you're saying, hey, well, if AI is real, then McDonald's will do it. And I don't need to buy into AI names because McDonald's will be the customer of artificial intelligence. That's essentially the conversation that I had with Brad earlier today. I love Brad. I disagree with him on that stance. That because something is essentially a program and not being actively monitored unless it's the code is being updated through being voted on and stuff like this, I don't think that changes anything. It's still actively a business, Ethereum, which is a technology that more and more customers are using. They have to pay gas fees to interact with the technology, and they're actively trying to use those gas fees to buy down the supply, burn additional coins, and support the security of it by offering dividends to shareholders. And in being a shareholder, you are validating the purchases that come through the Ethereum network. It is an active working ecosystem, and I think it's gone past the point of speculation. But Tanner, how do you evaluate the value of a cryptocurrency? Well, what I'm talking about really is you look at the specifically for Ethereum, okay? Pick out a couple areas that you think are valuable. Stable coins, for example. This is the movement of money through different rails than traditionally speaking. You know, you just had Howard Lutnick today say that they want to start putting GDP data and tokenizing that, putting that onto Ethereum as well. So then it's transparent and people can keep up with it in real time. But look at the, gas fees that will be generated on a per dollar basis, and then see how much payments, the velocity of money that's being transacted in worldwide or US based, or be conservative, say 10% of all US dollar money movement per year. And then like there is definitely a way to value a cryptocurrency. The same way that you would value looking at SoFi. How many customers are coming? How many customers could there be? What's their average revenue per user? And, where does that get 5 years from now? Why is it called a gas fee? I'm not sure on the exact term of gas fee. I just thought it was more along the lines of, you're paying the toll fee or the fuel. But honestly, I guess you could call it more of a compute fee or an energy fee, because that's really what you're paying for. You're paying for a computer to look at your transaction. And when I say computer, I mean more along the lines of like millions of computers, but yeah. What do you think about the argument that Ethereum itself will not necessarily see gains from simply an influx of use? How does Ethereum being used influence its price? If more gas fees are, if the use increases, more gas fees end up lowering the supply. Okay. And for every single quote unquote use case, you are holding on to stable coins that are ERC20 token. So you are holding on to Ethereum. Okay. So just like any stock, if there's more buyers than sellers, the average cost ends up going up. The more, daily use, the more gas fees, the more burn of Ethereum, meaning more buybacks of the stock. If there's more buybacks, the stock artificially goes up, and the sort of earnings per share ends up artificially climbing. If you do look at it like an equity, it might make a little bit more sense for you guys whenever you're sort of pricing that way. But this is unique to the utility coins, not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is or a lot of the shit coins and stuff like this. I don't mean to swear, but that's sort of what they're called. The meme coins are more speculative assets, and I'm not really playing in those. I have a small bit of Bitcoin. But Ethereum, Solana, these ones are utility coins, and I see them almost like Microsoft, Apple. They're building technological ecosystems where people can write code on them and create businesses. You can create apps on Ethereum the same way that you could write code for or put an app or an application on Microsoft or on a browser in the internet. Now, I'm not a super big crypto guy, so there's going to be crypto people in this chat that are going to run circles around me, but I try to understand the basics, and then I look at where it's going. So, and I think that we've passed the point of no return whenever you see the JP Morgans, the Wells Fargos, the Western Unions, PayPal's, Fiserv's, Visa, MasterCard. These companies are adopting stablecoins, and for the most part, they're all doing it on the exact same network. So I believed that Solana was going to be the real winner because they have, just they can do more transactions per second. But Ethereum can improve. There are updates to the system. Unlike a contrary belief, there can be massive changes in the system. But yeah. I forget where I was going with that, but JS24 says TLN nuclear plus not gas generation backed by long-term cloud contracts. I don't think I understand what you said at all, but TLN is a $17 billion company. We'll absolutely put it in the community fund. JS, thank you so much. Nuclear plus, nat gas. Okay, I read it wrong. Natural gas generation backed by long-term cloud contracts. That makes more sense. I was like, what the heck is not gas? Natural gas. Got you. Thank you so much, JS. Isn't it a Ponzi? Let's not. There are coins that are no good, but there's also, like, in the internet, the early days of the internet, it was the Wild West, right? There were so many apps and things like this that were just terribly bad news, but that distracted from the Yahoos, the eBays, the Googles, the real businesses that were being created. And I think that people have to look through the garbage. I don't want to say individual ones just in case there's people who are betting on them, but the meme coins, the ones that are more based on people that are just looking for your money and then they can rug pull you afterwards. And the difference would be that I think Ethereum is probably closer to the Visa rails, or even bigger than that, maybe, because I think there could be a real tokenization of all world assets. And if that happens, boy, oh boy. I'm not saying anyone's. Tanner's coffee is at McDonald's. Yeah, I got to go pick it up. Why do you need 300 stable coins? Every company is making its own coin. It's kind of weird. Yeah, so that's more along the lines of, it's so easy to, it's very hard to replicate. Think about it like a website almost. Do we all need to be on Amazon.com, or can we create something on our own website? So it's very hard to recreate a Google, very hard to recreate a Microsoft, but it's actually very easy through Ethereum to recreate a stablecoin. So unlike the traditional payment rails, it's quite easy to recreate a stablecoin. So we're going to see a big change in the way that we, maybe payments will not be consolidated to a few names. Maybe every individual company will handle their own payments. Maybe not all, but the same way that not every website has or not every online business has their own website. But maybe for the bigger ones, it makes more sense to do that, Circle is a little bit expensive, but Circle's kind of like Amazon versus Shopify, which might be more like Paxos, where Paxos is sort of offering companies to set up their own and they only take a small fee. Very different. Obviously, I know it's not the greatest example. I can't think of a better example off the top of my head, but it's just because of the nature of the technology that we don't need a consolidation in stablecoins. right? Almost like banks. If they're depositing their own dollars, it's like saying, hey, why do we have so many banks? Why don't we just have one bank that holds all the dollars and then we can connect to that bank? Because then JP Morgan's like, yeah, but I want to make my own dollars. I want to make my own net interest income. I don't want to borrow from JP Morgan and then they take a cut for every transaction that we have. Yeah, let me just program a website in Python real quick to make my own coin. But I mean, literally, it is code. You know, you absolutely can create your own coin. There's regulation behind it to make sure, specifically for stable coins, to make sure that they're backed one-to-one. But the same reason why there's multiple banks, there'll be multiple stable coins, because there will be somebody who will, you know, say that they do have those deposits and they are backed one-to-one, and they're willing to send in those reports to the, you know, proper regulatory agencies. It's worth the work if you're going to save a lot on the back end. Has Steve convinced you to buy any XRP? No, honestly, he's been buying a lot of Ethereum. He's like fully ETH pilled right now. He's been writing articles about BMNR, SBET. He's texting me every day about Ethereum. He's like full on. ETH is going to be the future of payment processing and tokenization. I mean, yeah. But that's a big market. Those are tens and tens of trillions of dollars. You know, is Circle a good investment? I'm not 100% sure. Like, if it is really easy to replicate a stable coin, obviously Circle has, you know, a lot of value-added services that they're trying to add, and also network effects. Much easier to transact a certain cryptocurrency if it's all the same one. But the big payment companies are creating their own. SoFi, by the way, is creating their own stable coin. We're pretty certain on that. I think it's called SF coin, FSUSD. JP Morgan's creating their own JUSD. PayPal is PYUSD. Fiserv is FIUSD. All of these ones, but they're doing that because they don't want to pay Circle the entirety of, you know, all that net interest income of holding on to all those treasuries. They want to do it themselves. They'll handle the ledger. Like SoFi's got no problem with that. Their whole business is making sure that the zeros and ones add up. It will be small. It will be harder for small businesses to create their own coins, and obviously that might not make sense. And that's where Circle is. That's what Circle is for. But for large payment institutions, that yeah. Stock market news. Evan, is this the real Evan right here? If it is, I'm surprised he's not a mod in chat. That's crazy. Evan, is that actually you? He's just going to say yes, and I'm going to have zero clue. Okay. Did you trade crypto last cycle? Yeah, I was in probably, I don't know when it was, 2021, something like that. Yeah, thanks, Evan. I appreciate the Airbnb to the moon. All right, it's him. It's him. Yeah, we talk about our Airbnb position sometimes. Oh, what a horrible what a horrible thing to be, you know, have in common. That's crazy. Okay. Wow, dude, a member and a mod in the same minute. That's crazy. Thank you so much, brother. How much more room do you think Robinhood has to go up by the end of the year? How much more room do you think Robinhood has to go up? I'm not sure it has to move much more, but if the markets are going to go up to 6,800, like, Tom Lee believes, and then he also believes 12,000 ETH by end of year, I mean, we could be, past the 120 marks quite easily. I think that crypto, we're going to have to monitor their monthly earnings for August, but so far it's looked very positive. So Open Door and all of these things are going to be amazing because they were mainly retail purchases. The amount of options volume and overall equity positions that people are staking on Open Door and other retail names, it's going to play right into Robinhood's book. So I think people thought that my 1.2 billion in revenue for next quarter was like extreme, which I even think it is. But after this August, I'm like, man, that could be right in line. Maybe that's what we end up seeing, which is nuts. Hood 135. What is that, end of year? Yeah, I mean that is bullish. Tanner, did you talk about your crystal ball prediction for Nvidia tomorrow? I don't really have one. I'm hoping for a beat, but also mainly it's all going to be on guidance. And if they can end up putting in good guidance, then the markets will get quite excited. And like I said, end of year, I think we see 200s as that we see like a 2 marker in front. I really am hoping for 250 by end of year, but the market is just not giving the respect that Nvidia deserves. It is grossly undervalued right now, in my opinion, but that can stay that way for a very long time, especially if we don't see, a large guidance increase. And then on top of that, if the China magnets thing does not sort of pan out, maybe the H20 sales are not really going to be what people are expecting. Yeah. Tanner, what do you think about BMNR? I think I'm going to take a stake in BMNR this week. I mean, obviously, just because I say that, and then the end of the week, you're going to be like, Tanner, you promised you would have BMNR, and I don't end up buying it. I'm not guaranteeing that I purchase it, but I have a growing conviction, and I'm going to look into it a lot tonight as well. So that's sort of where I'm at right now. Imagine if Nvidia goes to 70. Why would I imagine that? Tanner, drink water. All right. Absolutely, good sir. I will. PayPal was recently just removed from Granny Shots ETF. Yeah, we just talked about it this stream. And I actually talked about why I think SoFi is not on there as well, but I don't think that might be the case forever. I think that next quarter will be a very pivotal moment for SoFi's business as we have really accelerated growth, but last quarter it was bad comps. Next quarter, it's not bad comps. So if they can end up throwing up a much higher number, increasing guidance once again, potentially even if SoFi wants to get really bullish, increase 2026 numbers, potentially raising the lower band because Wall Street has met SoFi on their lower band at 55 cents, meaning their EPS targets for next year were 55 to 80 cents. Since they've said that target about a year ago, Wall Street has always been below 55 cents, which has never happened. SoFi has missed their guidance. So the fact that Wall Street was below, Anthony Noto's prediction for earnings next year was bananas. Now they've actually gone up to their lower bound range, which means that they do believe that SoFi is telling the truth, but they're not optimistic about it. They're not thinking they're sandbagging. They're actually thinking they're being way too forward-looking about that. I don't think that's true. Okay, I think we probably get like 38 cents this year and probably double that for next. So, yeah. Come be a meta investor with me, Willie. I think that's that could be the case. That could. How long have you been a Meta investor? I mean, probably making a fortune. Now I know why you're a long time member of the channel. You can afford it with those Meta shares, eh? Jeez. Also, that big shaking was me absolutely railing my knee on the bottom of my desk, but I put on a good face for you guys. I don't want to seem weak. My girlfriend watches these back. I can't be crying whenever I bang my knee on my desk, but inside I feel like it. We hold it in. Let's continue. Meta is a buy. Yeah, I do think so. What do you guys think about splits? I honestly have never really cared about share splits almost ever. Obviously, I think I would if, stocks were going to 60,000 or something crazy. But like, does it really stop you to purchase a stock if it's the difference of $700 or $50? I mean, mostly I assume that people are buying, like, okay, if you don't want to, if you don't have $700 to purchase the stock, you still buy fractionally. So I never really understood it. Obviously, the splits end up getting sentiment higher, but I never understood that. Splits help to do covered calls. Now that makes sense. I didn't think about that. I got caught. Okay, you guys caught me. That makes sense. All right, I take it back. I take it back. You guys won. All right. Next guy that says it gets banned. Let's see. For options, already said it. So that's fine. Mary doesn't get banned. All right. It looks like you guys dodged a bullet. I thought maybe I could time it well where like it hasn't gone through and then someone's typing, they just hit send and but no, you guys are all right. I'm going to get one of you guys eventually. Option say Robert's pushing his luck. All right. He's a long-term. He's here every day. All right. I hope Netflix splits. Yeah, I get that. And also, I'm not anti a split. I just never am like, oh man, this company needs to split. But like, can you imagine the day that like Mercado Libre like comes out? I think they're what are they? I don't watch them on a day-to-day basis. Last time I checked, they're 2,400 right now. But still, I love this company regardless. I think. Oh, this is not. That's my face. I think my average on this is 1,200 or so. So it's not we've seen lower. But if we do end up getting a split, what happens then? Do we end up splitting like 51 or 50 to 1 like Chipotle or something and then just write a crap ton of covered calls? That makes sense. PayPal needs a shot. What does that mean? Yeah, I think those are good picks. I've been kicked out of better places than this. Is that your brag? You get kicked out of places? I love how so many people get offended whenever I say I'm going to do a ban. People are like, "This is America." Like people get so political. I heard somebody comments like, "Oh, I would be very careful banning people." It's a YouTube channel, guys. Take a breath. Yeah. Rambler's in here right now. He's been banned. Tanner, do you have a buy list for new positions if September dip happens? Not necessarily. Obviously, there's names that I really like, but I think during those types of times, I want to buy the quality names that I've always been buying. But usually, it depends. Like if Nvidia ends up dropping by 10% and SoFi ends up dropping by 50, I'll probably end up taking more bets on SoFi because that has dipped more, and I still think that they're, going to do very well into the future. So I think it's more in the moment type of purchases for me. I'm not too, studied like that in a way where I have, oh, this is what happens in this situation. This is what happens in this situation. I kind of feel things out. I think in investing, people want a certain science to it, but some of it is a little gut feeling. And maybe that's a bad thing for me to say, but it's just the truth. Hey, listening to you guys in the gym, what's your favorite workout? Military press. Go to a squat rack, put some plates on, throw it over your head while you're standing. It's the best workout in the gym. That or just like, I don't know, seated rows or something, like close hand rows like that. This might be my favorites. Hammer curls, terrible answer. Terrible answer. Dime aside, get those numbers up. Get those numbers up. Hip thrust, that's something I should do. I never, ever, ever do. Pull-ups, yeah, definitely. I do a lot of dead hangs too. People think that that's crazy, but I've got really bad shoulders, so you'll notice I do a lot of shoulder stretching and shoulder exercises because I've got like a dislocation problem. Squats, I won't even disagree with that. Squats are the best exercise you can do. Just that much muscle mass will increase your testosterone overall, which will help with stimulate more muscle growth throughout the body, which is really interesting to think about. For those that aren't too interested in it, it's crazy that working your legs a ton will help with your upper body just because you're stimulating so much muscle growth. It's quite incredible. But yeah, once you guys meet me in real life, you'll realize the leg exercises are not my favorite. It's for sure. Everyone says don't skip leg day. I've been caught many times. Preacher curls, I swear by it. Yeah, I mean, if you want to feel like your biceps are going to explode, obviously preacher curls are nice. But when I just find that I can never bring myself to like an extreme last rep, because putting it down at the end, I'm actually going to pop something. So preacher curls are nice, but I can never just drop it in a way without being that guy at the gym. So yeah. Yeah, they're called beaver curls up in the north. Skull crushers. I never do those, but I should. I have everything because you just need a barbell and a bench, but I don't do them. I train legs 2 to 3 days per week. You're training legs 3 days a week? I get 2. 2, okay, I get it, but come on. What movie is this? I know what movie this is. Oh, it's a 40-Year-Old Virgin. That's what it is. I recognize it, but I just didn't forgot for a second. Hi, I'm late. How big is the MSCI inclusion? I mean, it's big. Like, this is quite interesting. So, let's go ahead and take a look here, and then we will go back to SoFi. Look how interesting this is. If we go to 5 days and look at the volume on those 5 days, do you guys notice something? You guys notice anything? You see these little green things in the mornings? I mean, the mornings and nights. Like, there's a lot of volume there. But right at the end of today, there was a unbelievable amount of volume at the end of the day. 38 million shares traded in like a 10-minute period or something. Or a few minute period. Now, the reason why that essentially happened, people are speculating, is that I'm looking at the volume candles here, not the stock. So if we go back, sorry, I can increase this, but you can see how different the big spikes in these days have been before versus what just happened today. Puts into perspective how big it was in that one period. We go to the minute chart here. You can see it was quite unique. Okay. Now, there's a lot of volume at the beginning of the day. Once you add in that, it shows you just truly how small the amount of volume is because of this. Once you put it into perspective. Now, that's most likely the MSCI inclusion. That I think will show up more tomorrow as well, but then the indexes will most likely rebalance over the next few weeks. The indexes that follow MSCI. So that was just one. I think that there will be more that end up following. Insider selling. Are you seeing the color of that candle? That was a green candle. It's buy volume. It's not Warren Buffett. I think it's just the Morgan Stanley index. We should get the Google ruling by the end of the month. Yeah, I know. And the stock at all-time highs shows you that. I think people are relatively optimistic, but even without that, the business is doing quite well. And it's just great, right? I mean, it's not everything. People are not betting against everything on Google, which was what we were seeing at the 150, 160 mark, which was just so undervalued. Couldn't even believe it. I really think SoFi gets added to the S&P this year. I think we'll run out of time. I hope. But I would have thought that there were bigger names than SoFi that gets in first. And a lot of financials. But search is dead. Yeah. Yep. Search is dead. But search keeps growing. Isn't that weird? Someone's got to look into that. The revenue on search keeps growing, but it's dead. But it's still growing. The margins are still staying, relatively the same, 42.1%. Interesting. Google says Google is not guilty. Yeah. What is dead may never die. Yeah. That's funny. Did you check out Google's new search with AI? Oh, you must have seen that AI mode came to Canada. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Gemini. In fact, the new Nano Bananas thing took off today, which I also thought was quite interesting. If maybe we can talk about this. This was quite interesting as well. I also have a BMNR, a Tom Lee video on NVIDIA that I want to talk about as well. But let's quickly talk about Gemini here. Okay. This was the rankings that the new Gemini 2.5 Nano Banana model ended up seeing, which was their flash image generation, which got such an amazing score on the leaderboards here versus many of the other companies that are also in the image generation space, especially for the edit, which was quite interesting. There were a couple people that were showing off how you can essentially put in images and say, hey, can you, change the eye color here? Can you change the hair color? Can you add on the shirt a logo that says this text, blah, 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 blah. And it was spitting out some great edits. But the more that this happens, the more that, AI will be used for advertising, be used more commercially. It increases the need for more customer or for more, B2B customers to sign up for Gemini 2.5, more subscription revenue for Google. And if there's more demand that way, a lot of token generation to create an image, more chips for NVIDIA. Isn't that interesting? Let's go ahead and listen to the great and powerful Tom Lee talk about NVIDIA tomorrow.
Us to our talk of the tape, the next leg of this record-setting rally. It's clear where our headliner stands on that topic. He's bullish, as you know. He is Fundstrat's Tom Lee. Joins us now at Post 9. It's good to see you.
Great to see you, Scott.
So NVIDIA looms large. Does that make or break whether your bullishness comes to fruition moving forward?
I know investors are really anxious, and NVIDIA has not performed well the last few times it's reported. But the story arc there remains that is one of the most important companies in the world in the middle of the biggest structural change in the world economy. So I think NVIDIA still is a great story. It really wouldn't change our thesis if the stock reacted poorly.
You feel like there's become a little more AI anxiety, as we wrote at the top. From Sam Altman at OpenAI saying that, investors are a little overeager about AI. Meta's reorganized again. They've stopped their hiring. There was another report today that suggested some of these Gen AI models, AI models are failing. You think there's anxiety in this market about this trade?
Well, I think everyone's trying to get situational awareness. Like, is this inning 1 or 2 or late innings? Because we know there's been a lot of value creation and a lot of capital that's flowed in. And we know that Silicon Valley has seen a boom of companies with $100 million annual run rates, like in record time around AI. And a lot of people want to ring the bell at the top. But to me, it still feels really early because there's such a limited number of stocks that public investors can buy that represent a direct play on AI.
I know, but that could lead to bubble-like activity, right? When your pool of investable opportunities remains so small, all of this money rushes to a select few.
Yes.
And then they have to live up to all of that hype and give a great return on these hundreds of billions of dollars that are being invested. That's not a risk?
Well, it is a risk. I guess that's really the next stage of what we have to see is how does the market accept now adding to the roster of direct AI plays, beyond just Figment. And I think, if we look at the next 12 months, there'll be a bevy of IPOs, some really big companies that are later stage. But if they're bought and they produce good growth and their stocks perform well, I would still say that still means we're early innings.
That's still your favorite trade?
I think it's the most important trade. Yeah.
I know it's the most important. I feel like that's legit. But is it?
I think there's a bigger upside in the owning financials right now. Because financials are benefiting from AI.
Okay.
So they're the second order beneficiaries. Plus they're getting the green light to build on the blockchain, which could really make JP Morgan and Goldman's business models so much more profitable and change their multiples, expand them. So I think, yes, I'm still bullish on AI, but I actually think the financials are really one of the legs that drive us the next 12 to 24 months.
Oh, interesting. No matter what the Fed does from here, does the rate picture matter for the bank stocks?
It does, because it provides the liquidity to sort of liquefy housing and corporate lending and bring spreads down. But I think the financial sector has produced visible earnings growth for a long time through these cycles, and they are trading like cyclical stocks. JP Morgan and Goldman should maybe have tech multiples. And so I think there's upside for financials.
Aside from when the broadening started to happen on the idea of rate cuts, those are the type of stocks already that were leading this market along with the mega caps. This is a large cap stock rally,
Yes.
right? I mean, industrials,
Correct.
the biggest names out of the industrials, the biggest names out of the financials, the biggest names in tech, we're leading the way.
Yes.
You think that continues?
Yes. And because, at the end of the day, when you look at GDP, for every unit of economic activity, there's one unit of financial. So financials are half the economy, but they're not half the index. And I'm not saying they're going to get to half the index, but they really should re-rate. I mean, I think what we're even this quarter, right? The numbers from JP Morgan, Goldman, and the financials, and look at the bullish IPO. These are all good signs to me that you want to be overweight financial.
He is the head of technology.
Whoa, okay, there we go. Took me a second. I was anyway. Yeah, I think that's very interesting. I think the one aspect that he is not factoring in is the risk revenue, right? Like, although I do agree that financials are going to do really well, especially with rate cuts benefiting from artificial intelligence, I also think the big names can afford to invest heavily in artificial intelligence because they have businesses that are heavily profitable. So the big get bigger in this space. I'm a big believer in that. But on the idea that the index, he said that, they're going to, well, he didn't suggest they get to 50%, but maybe, they should increase the rating, is that, a lot of the way that they make money is on lending out money. And so, Palantir, for every customer that they get, there's no chance of a clawback or something like this. Not at a grand scale. There is a way for JP Morgan's balance sheet to blow up. Now, do I think that's highly likely? No. Do I think that happens at smaller regional banks that might bet on a certain asset class that ends up getting blown up, or a certain, vintage of customer or something like this that ends up blowing up? Yes. And that can happen. So I think that there's an idea of financials should be priced a little bit lower than other companies. That I think is fair. But he is right in the fact that, well, I'm not even saying he's wrong there. I just don't know if he's factoring that part in. I don't get to talk to him. But, getting a phone call from the great and powerful Stephen Fiorillo.
Are you ready for tomorrow?
I'm live. Just careful, okay?
Oh, thank you for telling me. I didn't know you were live.
Yeah, I know. I pulled my phone away from my phone before you said something crazy.
Are you ready for tomorrow?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I'm projecting a major blowout, and would you like to know why?
I would love to know why.
Because the hyperscalers, consisting of Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Meta, quarter over quarter, okay? Say that again. Quarter over quarter, have increased their CapEx by 22.73%. They have spent an additional $16.34 billion on CapEx, and I'm willing to bet at least half of that went to NVIDIA.
Dude, you're out here doing work no one else is doing. It's crazy.
I am telling you, blowout tomorrow. Consensus estimates are wrong. The amount of CapEx that's been spent is insane.
Yeah.
Now, when I look at Q1, okay, are you ready for how much year over year the CapEx increased in Q1 from those four companies?
Year over year from Q1?
Yes.
That sounds like quarter over quarter. What am I missing here?
No, year over year.
From
Not
Q2.
quarter over quarter. So instead of going Q2 to Q1 in 2025, now we're looking at Q1 2025 compared to Q1 2024, year over year.
Okay.
In Q1, year over year, CapEx from those four companies increased by 62.35%, $27.61 billion. We are going to get a slaughter, an absolute slaughter.
Yeah, but that's Q1. Why aren't you looking at Q2 year over year?
I'm just saying, Q2 year over year is very similar. I'm just saying, the numbers are so big on how much expansion we're seeing in freaking CapEx that there is no way NVIDIA doesn't beat earnings tomorrow.
You want me to send you a link?
I keep modeling it. I can't see a way they don't beat earnings.
No, well, I think they're going to beat as well. Let me send you a link and we can talk about it.
Send me a link so we can talk about it.
Well, I'm sure you have
Yes.
charts that you're looking up. I want to see them.
I mean, I may have built some charts. I may have built some bar graphs.
Yeah,
I may have.
we're visual learners on this channel.
We're visual learners, you said.
You know.
All right, send me a link.
All right. See you soon. Okay, bro. Such an angry. Did that come through on the mic or no? Okay. Did his closing remarks come through? I sent him the link. He's been notified. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm excited to talk about NVIDIA with the great and powerful Stephen Fiorillo. But that being said, I was talking about Tom Lee. I think that I love how much he's pushing into the financial space, and I wonder what his take on. I wonder if I can just DM him. Like, how does that work? How do I can DM him? I'm going to DM Tom Lee and ask him to look into SoFi. You know, wanting financials, wanting rate cut beneficiaries. If I could sell Tom Lee on SoFi, boy, oh boy. I'm going to tell him it's got such a retail backing. That would be, guys, that would be crazy. But there's also a 99% chance he doesn't read my tweet. But I mean, he's retweeted me before, so he might notice the profile picture. Maybe it's stored subconsciously far, far back in his head. It's worth a shot. You know? This is the start of insider trading. It's not even remotely. I don't work for the company. It's not even remotely insider trading. I've pitched SoFi stock on a lot of people. You know, Jeremy Lefebvre, I pitched him SoFi. I pitched Amit SoFi originally. There's a few people that I got to buy the stock. I pitched FinTech on Nubank. And then maybe if he does get SoFi and I sent him a tweet and he ends up buying it, then I definitely get him on the channel. We're going to keep up the cold DMs. I sent a lot of people DMs recently. So. And Tom, honestly, he loves retail. That is true. Tanner not even getting paid for shilling? Not directly paid, but you know, me and Tom Lee owning the same company, I'm sure is beneficial to the audience, I guess. Definitely wouldn't hurt to have a Tom Lee pick in the portfolio. But I mean, obviously, I have had one through NVIDIA for a long time. But yeah, I probably should own BMNR before I send him a message. I'll quickly buy some and get like 100 shares and then send him a DM and be like, hey, you know. Tom Lee is retail's golden boy right now. It is true. And as long as his trades are as good as his research, then he will be bigger than Cathie Wood ever was. Yeah, I gotta sell SBET. Yeah, no, it's true. Right? I'm a big fan of all the ETH treasuries. Like, wrong answer. Hangs up. SoFi does strike me as a granny shot. I mean, yes. Bro, he's got some things on there that I would not have thought would make it onto the granny shots list. SoFi could definitely make it onto that list. And he does not mind paying a premium. Costco's on that. If Costco's on that, then SoFi is on that. Like, once he starts looking at what management has done, I'm sure he knows Anthony Noto. I don't know. Could be interesting. So is Bitcoin being left in the dust with all this ETH hype? Well, I did hear some outflows of Bitcoin into Ethereum. There were some, viewing that is actually happening. But I wouldn't say left in the dust. I think they're two separate plays. It's not like Ethereum and Solana might bump shoulders with each other and compete for similar customers. But it's like saying, hey, are people leaving gold to buy Microsoft? It's like, no, I think, gold is gold and it just sits there, but it's also worth trillions and trillions of dollars. Gold is inherently bigger than Microsoft if you were to look at the total market value. But which one would I care about more as an investor, and which one do I think is more important to the economy? Well, not to the, maybe I shouldn't say economy. Maybe I'd be downplaying gold's role, but Microsoft is an important role of everyone's, world. And I think that Ethereum will be a big part of everyone's, financial lives, even if you don't fully realize it. Tom Lee said Bitcoin to 1 million. Yeah, he is just a general believer in a lot of those crypto names. Let's see. I thought we were buying med stocks. Not me. That was retail, but not me. I honestly have only stuck with tech names and financials. And guys, I'm telling you, it's worked out so well. I have not needed to look elsewhere. And in the face of many people looking elsewhere, like, even if it's ignorance or something like this, I mean, to some degree, I'm proud that I don't get that FOMO that forces me into other investments that I don't fully understand. Buy NVIDIA before it hits 200, Payush? 100%. I'll make sure to do all of the donation updating tonight right after the stream because I do have time. Also, you guys will notice that I have time because the stream's been on for 2 hours and 20 minutes. But once Steve comes on, we can talk about NVIDIA. That'll be very exciting. And yeah, dude. Rahard Jacques also posted about this on why yesterday on the Tech Bros Weekly, we talked about why I believe that total cost of ownership and energy being the bottleneck is actually a super bull case for NVIDIA, because everyone will continuously need to upgrade to the most modern stack while having a capped supply of energy. They'll try to increase the energy, but it won't be as fast as they can get new chips. But Rahard ended up posting about the reasons why clients will jump from NVIDIA's latest or to NVIDIA's latest, comparing the H100s to the GBL 300s. Okay. And this is comparing, a very different setups. 16 H100 GPUs versus 4 GB300s. And you're still seeing a 6.5x performance in compute. Right? So that's also what's very exciting and why customers will continue to upgrade to the latest GPUs overall. But ladies and gentlemen, it's not just about NVIDIA, or actually it is. And to get a better understanding of NVIDIA, I thought Stephen was coming here to talk about Ethereum, but no, he's actually here to talk about something other than Ethereum. Let's talk about tomorrow, NVIDIA stock.
Steve, you're not bullish enough.
Yeah. Okay. What percentage of your portfolio is in NVIDIA?
I'm just saying you're not bullish enough.
Okay. I think mine's at 45%.
Okay. Why isn't it at 46?
Because it's not at 184 anymore or something.
Okay. Well, you're not bullish enough.
So show me.
All right. Hold on. So I cleaned it up just a little bit. I'm sure you're going to make me zoom in, right?
Oh yeah.
All right.
You
I
can probably go a little bit further.
don't even have I can't even see my freaking notes now. Shit. Hold on. All right, let me put my notes on a different one so I can see. Give me 1 sec. But yeah, you're excited for tomorrow?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a big day for us Nvidia shareholders, which now is, a large percentage of the market. And I think a lot of retail has also followed into that trade since April, getting down to sub 100 pricing to now, be up essentially 100% since April is just insane. So I think everyone, all of retail is very excited and optimistic about tomorrow.
The fact that we even got to that point is insane.
Right? It's unbelievable. But that's why that's the only conversation that we could even have, because it was just a screaming buy at the time. You remember how much we were talking about it at the time?
I kept on saying that this doesn't make any sense. Yes. You kept on saying this doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to credit you because you were very bullish on NVIDIA when I thought it was extremely overvalued. And then when the numbers changed, I said that I've never seen a company expand their profitability like NVIDIA. And ever since then, I've been a bull.
Well, I appreciate that compliment, brother.
So this is why I'm so excited for tomorrow. This is the 4 hyperscalers, Amazon, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Meta, CapEx spend on a quarterly basis on the left from Q1 2024 through Q2 2025, and then the cumulative totals on the right-hand graph, okay? And here's where it gets absolutely crazy. God damn it. 1 sec.
Dude, whenever you chart it like that, Google's CapEx, like 70% year over year growth or whatever it was, it's just insane.
So hold on a sec. So I'm going to read you some stats. So on Q1, on a year over year basis, these 4 hyperscalers increased their CapEx allocation by $27.61 billion, which is 62.35%. Okay. They went from 44.3 to 71.9 billion. In Q2, on a year-over-year basis, that actually increased. They increased their year-over-year CapEx expansion by 66.97%, and they added 35.39 billion in CapEx spend. There is no way NVIDIA doesn't blow the doors off earnings tomorrow, because we know every time the hyperscalers increase CapEx, a large portion goes to NVIDIA for chips. And this is just 4 companies that spent $88.25 billion in CapEx in Q2. That doesn't include anybody else.
For which there is other buyers.
Well, think about it. Tesla's a big buyer, or they try to be a big buyer.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of companies that are just waiting in the weeds. Oracle, picking up whatever they can. So,
not just Tesla, but Elon in general through XAI, right?
Right. That's, you know what I mean when I say Tesla. I mean Elon's companies in general.
Yeah. Lots of NVIDIA there.
Here's the thing about NVIDIA. In Q1, their cash from operations increased on a year-over-year basis by 78.65%. They added $12 billion year over year in Q1 in freaking cash from ops, and their free cash flow increased by 74.86% as they added 11.2 billion in free cash flow.
Yeah.
I'm expecting a big increase year over year in free cash flow. I'm expecting big profitability, and we also have a reversal in their earnings, because I believe they're going to be able to charge that 5 billion write-off back into net income. Now, maybe that doesn't happen this quarter. Maybe that's a Q3 thing, but that's probably going to happen in this quarter or next quarter.
Yeah. I don't know how it's going to break down. From what I heard, there was a slight amount of reusage of that 5.5 billion. Like they repurposed some of the chips for other products that they ended up selling. So I don't know if it'll be 100%, 5.5 billion, or if some of that has already flowed through in Q1, just not in the H20s that we know it.
Yeah,
But
we'll see. I mean, it's definitely going to help. How much it helps, we'll see.
yeah, 100%. It's all additive. And then, someone even brought up the Saudi spend and other sovereign AI that's going to end up coming through. It's crazy what's happening. People are not pricing in the AI trade at all. I mean, we talked about it a while ago. Let me see if I can bring this up again. Was this from yesterday that we ended up talking about this? It was. Look at this. Steve, you've been following the markets a long time. I could be 100% wrong here. When's the last time a software company has landed a deal like this? OpenAI and the United Kingdom's technology secretary have reportedly discussed a multi-billion-pound deal to give the entire country premium access to the AI tool.
I mean,
when do deals like this happen?
Yeah, very few. The only other companies that potentially have deals like this, and they probably weren't even announced, would have been Microsoft or Amazon with AWS or Alphabet with Google Cloud. Those are the only other ones. No other companies are, to my knowledge, able to pull off massive deals like that. And I say Microsoft because Windows environment, Office environment, they may do a bundle with a government something. So
yeah, for education purposes, for schools, something like that. That makes sense.
Hospital systems, whatever.
Yeah. But this is what's happening. Like, OpenAI is expected to make $12 billion this year. By the way, you should look at the comparison between Palantir and OpenAI. I think it makes OpenAI look really cheap, actually. They print so much top line growth. It's insane. And to think that they're not going to get, operating leverage over time and actually get better margins over time, I think that would be silly. I think if anyone... What?
Who's saying that they won't?
I mean, there's definitely been some critiques about how much they're burning whenever people compare it to a Palantir. But I think if you look at the long-term picture...
I mean, it doesn't matter because they're not public, so who cares?
No, but if you can get private access, I mean,
just buy Microsoft. They own 50% of it.
I know, but you get too much dilution through that. And I don't even think they own 50% anymore. I think they own 50% at the time. I think that they've been diluting. I don't know if it's 100 or a 50% stake anymore. You know what I mean? Because they've done a couple raises since, big ones, 40. I think, post-money valuation for SoftBank.
I'm going to make some calls right now for you.
Sick.
I'm going to say that I was incorrect on NVIDIA, where my price target was for the year. I thought we would be getting to 180 or 185 by the end of the year. I don't know if I can get to where you are, but I think we go 210 by end of the year.
210?
I think we can get to 210 by the end of the year. We got 2 more earnings calls.
Yeah.
One tomorrow and one in November. I think we can get 210. I mean, I'm very shocked that this went from 140 to 180 so quickly. I didn't think that we were going to add that much market cap in the past month and a half, or whatever it is. I think that they're going to blow earnings out. I think the rate cuts are going to help. I think with cost of capital being cheaper, you may see companies expand CapEx even further. I think they're going to break 200 by the end of the year. And I do think that my prediction at the beginning of the year is going to come true with S&P 7,000.
I think I think institutions are actually so underweight NVIDIA right now, and that if they honestly were buying NVIDIA to the amount that they probably should be based on their growth in earnings, they would be 250. But, I understand it's
Look what Meta did after earnings. Meta jumped huge. NVIDIA could jump $20-$30 tomorrow if they blow it out.
Which would be insane. But I don't know.
Yeah, but they're not trading at a huge valuation right now.
It'll all be on guidance. And they are not. Dude, have you do the comparison? Look at the PE ratio. Just trailing.
I have it in front of me. Hold on.
No, versus Costco.
Oh, you want me to get mad? You want me to get pissed off?
I think they're the exact same right now, 56 times or something like that.
No, what are you talking about? NVIDIA is so much cheaper. What are you
No,
talking
no, on a trailing 12-month.
Oh, trailing. I don't care about
How
trailing.
funny is that? They're the exact same price.
You want me to get angry? Like, I am on a vendetta about this. I don't understand it. Why anybody would pay for Costco right now versus some of these companies is crazy. Look at this. You just want me to go on a tangent, don't you? Who is buying Costco at 42 times earnings with a projected 22.5% growth over the next 2 years when you can pay 26 times for Nvidia with over 60% growth over the next 2 years? That doesn't make any sense.
It is crazy, dude.
It does not make any sense whatsoever.
And at unbelievable margins. Like, that's the thing too that no one ever prices in, is that, like,
They have a 54% profit margin. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, if there is competitors that come into Costco space, it's very hard for Costco to try to price to stop.
Profit margin is 2.7%.
No, I know. So they can't really change their pricing in order to fight competitors off. But Nvidia can lower their pricing to stomp out competitors.
Chain issue, or oil goes up, or if inflation goes up, their cost of goods is going to go up so much that they are on such razor thin margins. There is no way they can absorb the costs.
Yeah, but Nvidia can.
Exactly.
Nvidia is so flexible in their business model, and it's just incredible that no one's giving it essentially any real premium versus the total addressable market. Now, unlike Costco, to be fair, they're not as cyclical. Like, Nvidia could have a period in the future where they end up seeing negative revenue growth year over year because the chip companies say, hey, you know what? We're full. Thank you so much. We're done buying. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but that still is a possibility. And I think that's what the market is worried about.
On that, originally, I think I made the statement probably summer of last year. I had made the prediction that I think we had 18 to 24 months of hyper expansion build out, then we're going to maintenance mode. I actually think we still have probably 36 months
until we find a new use case.
That could make me change my mind and say 48 to 60 months. But now,
what's changed our mind the last couple of times. And I mean,
yeah, it all depends on if we get agentic AI, what the use case is and what the data is.
The new model that just came out from Google today was that new image generation that's blowing everyone's blowing all the benchmarks away. It's the top of the line thing where you're able to essentially edit images with real precise text, and you can essentially say, hey, you know what, like you remember that image that I made of you and Amit and it didn't look anything like you? This will be able to change his hair, flip around his hair, change the stripes on his shirt to yellow, and it doesn't completely just rearrange the entire image to something new. So imagine how AI is used in advertising campaigns for real businesses. Like,
here's where I think we're going with AI. Within 5 to 10 years, I have no idea when it's going to happen. I'm going to be able to talk to my TV and tell Netflix I didn't like the way that or talk to HBO Max and say, I don't like the way The Sopranos ended. Make me a new ending, or make me a new season because this hasn't freaking been shot over 20 years, and take out all the Dr. Melfi scenes because I don't want to waste my time with that. It's just, I think that we're going to get to an age where you're going to be able to create new seasons of your favorite shows just by telling it, and they'll probably charge a premium package. But I think there's going to be so much that can be done with this. Sky is the limit for companies like Nvidia at this point.
Is Dr. Melvin that therapist that he goes to?
Melvin is the therapist, yes.
You don't want any of those?
No. So when I say that, I've already watched the entire series several times. When I go back and watch it, I speed through several portions of it. Those are some of the scenes I speed through.
Melfi.
Because I like rewatching shows that I enjoy, but I like watching parts of them. Like, I'm not sitting there for 55 minutes and watching a whole episode. Like, there's maybe 10 minutes of an episode that I actually want to see again.
She just stares at him. Yeah, that's funny. No, I started watching after you gave me that recommendation. I think I got through like 4 seasons and then I stopped. But
You stopped after 4 seasons?
yeah, I'll finish it eventually. But
You didn't get to see Tony Bondetto come back? Like, come on. Steve Buscemi came back in season 5.
well, why are you doing this to me?
You gotta watch. You gotta watch.
Well, you just spoiled it for
No, I'm trying to get
820
you
people.
back in. Buscemi's in season 5. 2 Tonys.
2 Tonys. Yeah, spoilers, bro. Okay. Yeah, I think that it's going to be weird, the mix between real content and artificial content. There obviously will be a place for artificial content, but I wonder how that's going to play out, especially on apps like Netflix and stuff like this. There could come a time where it's a choose your own adventure, but
I'm all for it. If I can extend 24 and shows like that, and like The Unit, such a good show that they only made 4 seasons of. Give me another season.
yeah. Change the ending of Game of Thrones.
Oh my God. How about we redo Game of Thrones?
Well, I mean, the first few seasons were amazing.
Game of Thrones, I'm going to get so much hate for what I'm about to say.
Yeah, I'm already hating it.
I'm about to get so much hate for what I'm about to say. And one of my good friends who passed away is probably going to strike me down for saying this. After rewatching it for probably the 5th time, I came to the realization, because I read all the books that's in the Old English dialect, and George R. Martin, like, how he hasn't finished the latest book after 15 years or 20 years is insane. So annoying.
I think it's hard to wrap a story for sure.
I think there's a lot of parts about Game of Thrones that didn't need to be in the series, or they could have shortened some of those and made the good stuff longer and better.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? Pun intended said we are getting way off topic. We totally are. Can we quickly talk about Ethereum? I've been talking a lot about BMNR, SBET.
Well, I just had an article come out about SBET last night.
I saw that. I didn't read it. I saw it though.
Okay.
I will read it.
I'm down the rabbit hole.
Give me the highlights. Why SBET over BMNR or BMNR over SBET?
I never said either of that. I own both.
know. I'm asking, why would someone pick one over the other?
I own both.
And that's the way to play it 50-50?
I don't know. I own both. I own Ethereum directly. And the Bitcoin maximalists are going to hate me for saying this. Bitcoin has no utility. Bitcoin is not going to... All right, let me choose this correctly.
It's gold.
It is only a store of value because people allow it to be a store of value. Bitcoin is not going to be used for transactions. It's not going to be used for anything. When you look at Circle, what did Circle build a stablecoin on? Layer 2. What does the Genius Act pave the way for? A lot of stablecoin issuance and utilization. PayPal is building their stablecoins. If all these stablecoins come out on Layer 2.
You know SoFi's coming out with a stablecoin?
Yes. If all these stablecoins are built on Layer 2, it is going to increase the utilization rate of Ethereum by so much. You're going to have a lot of ETH getting burnt off. And the one thing I like about the treasuries, which is why I am splitting my investment between Ethereum directly and the treasuries, is because I cannot stake my Ethereum with the state that I am in. And the staking is huge for the treasuries because they own so much of it that they're able to add such a large amount of ETH every year, and that becomes net income accretive immediately and increases the ETH per share on the NAV. And I think that the utility for Ethereum is going to be insane. And I am now coming around to the idea of tokenization. And while I still disagree with you guys about all collectibles, I am now believing that very high-end collectibles, like the card that O'Leary and his 2 buddies just bought over the weekend for $13 million, he hinted that he wants to create an index of sports cards. I think that they're going to create an index that is warehoused somewhere at Iron Mountain or something like that, and they use the smart contract system through Ethereum to create the tokenization and sell shares of it. Yeah. And I think that that's going to become a thing with high-end collectible cars, with really high-end asset sports cards. And I think that that's just going to become the new way that people get access to these things. And the use case for Ethereum is unstoppable. And I started listening to this podcast called Bankless. I must have crushed like 5 of their episodes in the past week. And
They'll orange pill or Ethereum pill you pretty quick.
This is digital oil. I am convinced. And how about this? It should be bigger than Bitcoin. If Bitcoin is where it is, Ethereum should be twice as big. Like Bitcoin,
you know what? This is the way that I think about it. If Bitcoin is gold, and honestly, I would say Ethereum is closer to a Microsoft. The actual technology that all businesses are running their businesses off of. If you still think about it, gold is more valuable than Microsoft because there's a lot of assets worldwide. So if you can put a 10 or $20 trillion price tag on gold, that doesn't mean that Microsoft is not valuable or even more valuable for certain economies or businesses, but it still maybe should be valued around 4 trillion, 5 trillion.
Why
is that a fair way of looking at it?
Why shouldn't it be valued off of the proved reserves of oil?
You mean Ethereum?
What's the oil market worth?
Yeah, but I think that what's the connection with the oil thing that you're
because
suggesting?
This is what the network's going to run on.
Oil?
No, Ethereum. It's digital
because of energy.
Every time you make a transaction, you have to utilize a small portion of the ETH to make the transaction that burns off.
Yeah. So you're saying that the part of it is the energy cost, and that's what you're tying it to.
Yes.
I see. Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't know what Ethereum is going to do, but I have a sneaky suspicion that with all the institutional money moving in, with these treasuries issuing a ton of shares to buy more, with spot ETFs, I do think that we're going to see a huge increase in price. We are just back to where we were. It still has not broken out past all-time highs on a relative basis. And look at what Bitcoin's done. It's just crazy that Bitcoin has done what it's done and Ethereum hasn't. But I think when people really come around to the idea of these use cases and we really start getting all this stuff going, we still have another 3.5 years before there will be a new presidential candidate.
They're not going to change a thing. They're not going to change it.
I said it before. I don't think it matters who's going to take over, which side wins, because I don't think you can win an election anymore with being against crypto. I just don't.
You know what, too? I think Bitcoin now this is, I don't actually think that this is a true, or I think the idea is a true statement. I don't think it actually leads to anything. Bitcoin could be a threat to the US dollar. Ethereum strengthens the US dollar. And I think that if you allow things like stable coins to blossom, that allows for more US dollar utilization worldwide. Like
Bitcoin's not a threat to the US dollar.
Yeah, but if people are taking...
Bitcoin's not backed by anything. US dollar is backed by the American military and proved reserves of oil.
I get that. But if you have money and you're transacting in Bitcoin, then you are not transacting in US dollars. It's less utilization.
Who's transacting in Bitcoin with the settlement time?
No, I'm just saying, one, it is definitely possible, especially in the Lightning. For example, SoFi.
It's just not probable.
SoFi, for example, uses Bitcoin for their international payments.
Which makes no sense.
I get it, but with the Lightning Network, it works.
What's the Lightning Network? It's still slower than Solana or XRP.
Well, I mean, Ethereum's slower than Solana,
but still, why would you use Lightning Network over Solana or XRP? Makes no sense.
You got to talk to Nodo and their tech team there.
But regardless, I do think that Ethereum, I can see it at 100,000 a coin at some point within the next 10 years, if everything falls into place.
Yeah. What did you think about Tom Lee's prediction today on Amit's show where he said Ethereum to 12,000 by end of year.
I mean, in all seriousness, I hope that doesn't happen because I'm not done buying yet.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't want that to happen. I want to keep acquiring at these levels, but with how Bitcoin's run with no reason to run, I wouldn't be surprised. My fear is that it starts running and you start getting all these alternative coins coming out and all these scams and all this bullshit. Because to me, there's only a few projects that are even worth really looking into. And I only own 4 different cryptos. That's it. I'm not buying others.
Yeah, but you know what? This is the great thing about buying Ethereum is like buying Microsoft. Microsoft cannot control if someone goes and gets a personal computer and creates some scam company on the internet.
I get it.
You know, there's an aspect of the Wild West, same way of early days of the internet. But as time goes on, you'll find the eBays, the Yahoos, the Googles of the early internet. They were around the whole time. It's just they're not the size. You know, Google is now the size that it is today, but Microsoft the whole time was around. It was always the ecosystem. It created the platform that created businesses.
Well,
Ethereum is the platform that it will create businesses.
Yeah, I think you're correct. And I will tell you that I do think that the treasuries are going to trade at a leverage multiple the way MicroStrategy does.
Yeah, this is another thing. Why MicroStrategy over BMNR? I didn't understand MicroStrategy. I still don't, because there's no staking. I think the great thing about BMNR and SBET is the staking aspect.
100%.
Is you're leveraging a dividend.
And the way that the Ethereum network works, they can't issue more than a certain amount.
Yeah, and the more usage, the more gas fees burn off. It's like a
Exactly.
buyback. It's a buyback program.
And the staking becomes even more accretive.
Yeah.
And if everything happens with stablecoins the way that I think it's going to happen, I think we're going to see a tremendous amount of gas fees and ETH getting burned. And that makes ours worth more. I mean, the real question is, are you buying more here?
Am I buying more? Yeah, I think I'm going to get some BMNR.
I mean, Ethereum. Are you buying more Ethereum here?
I'm buying a little bit more Ethereum, but I'm going to get all 3, I think.
So
and it's
yeah,
not going to be a terribly big position in my portfolio, but single-digit percentages.
I bought ETH machine also. I don't have a lot of it. I bought it just because the CEO's comments on that Bitcoin has no utility, so I'll support them because I've been saying that for so long, and I'll continue to say it because it has no utility.
I don't think many people argue against that. I just think they think it's a store of value, and there's only so many people and only so many coins.
I'm going to buy more Ethereum right now.
Like even Tom Lee is a believer in, even Tom Lee's a believer in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I'm different than everybody else. I think Bitcoin is just, I don't see the reason to have it.
Yeah. I still own it. I'm still a coin holder.
But I do think Ethereum is the next big thing. And you know how I said I really don't see many opportunities right now with where the market is?
Yeah.
I think Ethereum is the biggest opportunity we've seen in a while. If you have 5 to 10 years, I think this is like getting NVIDIA 2019.
Sorry, say that one more time. I had a hard time processing that.
I think this is getting NVIDIA 2019.
Uh,
If you have 5 or 10 years to hold it.
Yeah, but then it's not 2019. 2019 would be.
No, I'm saying appreciation from 2019 to now. I think the ETH can do something similar is what I'm saying.
Got you. Yeah, I think that could be a fair statement. If you look at the world's assets, and now it's getting the green light to go ahead and tokenize things and handle payments. I think it's bigger than what people say. But like I'm not seeing a whole lot of people in the stock market that I follow. Obviously, there is full, ETH investors, but I'm not seeing you put 20% of your portfolio down, 60% of your portfolio down, betting on like who's taking a super consolidated bet on Ethereum here? I mean, the bankless guys are, and the people that follow that podcast every day do. But
I mean, I'm sure there are people that are. I will tell you that if I had the ability to buy Ethereum through my brokerage account, I would own a lot more of it.
how much more?
A lot.
A percentage of your portfolio?
It could be 10% of my portfolio if I was able to buy it through my normal accounts.
Got you.
But because it is not, and I'm having to use fresh capital, I'm not buying as much as I would have because certain reasons. But I am buying more right now as we speak.
What I didn't really like your answer. What's the difference between SBET and BMNR in your opinion? Do you think that there's a real benefit to being number one as BMNR has
I mean, the reason I own both of them is because I don't know which one's going to get a bigger valuation. So I have no way of knowing that. I mean, BMNR may get a bigger valuation just because of Tom Lee. I have no idea.
Well, bigger valuation versus a
bigger
better price on MNAV is different.
Oh, SBET's price to ETH is way better than BMNR right now. There's no question about that. I think it's also going to come down to how they stake, because it's not just staking the Ethereum. There's another component of it that can get them another 1 or 2%. And I don't know who's going to have a better way of doing things. So I want to own both of them because I think they're both going to do well in the future. And have you gone through SBET's actual presentation and really looked through their stuff?
They're bullish.
There's no way for me to know which one is going to add more value or do it. So I want to own both of them, because if MicroStrategy trades at such a huge valuation compared to the Bitcoin that they hold, why shouldn't these in the future?
Yeah. Okay, bro. Is there anything else you want to tell the stream?
I don't know.
I've been live for 3 hours, so I'm going to wrap. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching. Steve, I do really appreciate you popping in and schooling us on not only Ethereum, but NVIDIA. Talk with you tomorrow. Hopefully we go laughing to the bank together. That'll be exciting. But until next time, bye for now.
Later.